Gaming is a hobby many of us enjoy, and for most of us, it's a hobby that we have enjoyed for the majority of our lives. The video game industry has grown and changed so much since the start of our fandom, and we have all grown and changed with it. But how did us growing up affect the games that we played? And how did the games industry's growth affect us as we grew? Welcome to Insert Coin, where we take a walk down memory lane to answer those very questions and discuss our personal history with video games. One quarter at a time. Hey, what's up, and welcome to episode 6 of Insert Coin, the interview show where we divide our lives into quarters and talk about all the games and systems we loved during those times. Joining me today is a very special guest, co-host and social media coordinator of a cooperative podcast, the Gaming Together podcast, a man who has halfway to 1 million gamer score, a man who has played more Rock Band than the entire average lifespan of a chameleon. Ladies and gentlemen, Nave. How are you doing tonight, Nave?
That was incredible. I wasn't expecting all of that. I'm doing great. How are you, man?
I'm awesome. Before we jump into the interview, I'll give a little breakdown on how this show works. What we do is we divide the guest age by 4 and use each quarter of their lives as a jump-in point to chat about all the games they loved and all the fond memories they had during that era of their life. So, with that being said, Nave, what year were you born?
I was born in 93.
1993. So that puts the first quarter in our trip down memory lane to the time between 1993 and 2000, the millennium. But before we start, let's put a coin into the arcade time machine and take a quick peek into that era of gaming.
In the cutthroat video game industry, one word seems to be all-powerful.
The graphics. The graphics. Better graphics means it's more realistic.
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived.
Critics agree Metal Gear Solid is an absolute masterpiece.
We took this back and twisted Metal 3 with enough weapons to make any angry driver happy.
When it comes to video games, the more bits the better, and the new machine from Nintendo, it's as good as it gets.
ゲームでしか味わえない感動がある。任天堂64ゼルダの伝説。
Introducing Super Smash Brothers, where all your favorite characters go toe-to-toe in one 4-player star-studded slam fest.
Sega.
1993 to 2000. Nintendo has pulled off a top 10 anime betrayal, embarrassing Sony at CES by pulling the rug out from under them and abruptly partnering with Philips on the Nintendo CD drive for the Super Nintendo. Did they kill a competitor before they were born, or was Sony the video game console version of Sarah Connor, giving birth to the end of all cartridges? Tell me, Nave, in this era of your gaming life, what devices did you game on? What was your favorite, and do you remember how you got them?
For the most part, I have a pretty wide net as far as systems that I played on. My dad, my mom and my dad were always separated, and every time my dad came, he would come and pick me up and take whatever console I had currently, sell it, and buy a new console. So it was like it was like a present almost, and I was a dumb kid, so I never realized that my old console was gone. At first, I got the Nintendo 64 though, and then I moved on to the PlayStation 1. The Dreamcast, funny enough, came out on my birthday, September 9th.
1999.
Oh yeah, it was a very special day for me. But I think the Game Boy's in there somewhere. I'm pretty sure. At some point, Game Boy Color's in there. So What was the question again? I got lost in my memories.
No problem. So my question was, what consoles did you game on? Which you did answer. I'm wondering which is your favorite. Is there any of them that have any kind of special meaning to you or special memories, specifically maybe surrounding how you got them? I know you had mentioned that you did a lot of trade-ins, but originally you couldn't trade in with the first one that you got. So I'm wondering how you got that.
Nintendo 64 was a gift after my dad got out of prison. And he wanted he doesn't really like video games too much, but he wanted something that was flashy, you know, something that other kids would see and and be envious of. So I ended up getting the Nintendo 64. But my first gaming memories were on the SNES, playing on my uncle's old CRT TV in his back room, and I would play Super Mario Kart just all the time. And I would have no idea what was going on, and neither would he because he was pretty old. And the old Super Mario Karts weren't in 3D. They had this like weird, what was it, parallax or something?
Parallax scrolling?
It was some, I don't know. I might be using the wrong term now, but it was
Parallax
like a
scrolling is when like the background moves in different ways than you're moving on the screen. So like you might be moving forward, but then stuff in the background, the foreground are kind of like moving in different ways. So like a building might kind of scroll across the screen to the left as you run to the right.
I think
might not.
No, it's like type something. It's like maybe it was a chip. It was on the Star Fox game on the SNES.
Mm-hmm.
I know somebody's probably very upset just hearing us.
My last guess from last week is just like screaming the answer right now. But I also don't remember. They all have these weird names for everything, like Super Duper Drive, Mega Ultra 32X, Crazy Mega Superman. Yeah, I have no idea. Definitely something.
Other than that, my aunt had a computer, and she bought children's games for me because I'd stay over there for a few months occasionally. And there was a game in particular called Freddy Fish. Have you ever played those?
Freddy Fish? No, I played Goosebumps Escape from Horrorland. That was the kiddie game that I played over and over again forever.
I assume they're probably pretty close, like just like point and click adventure games.
Yeah, exactly.
And Freddy Fish, I don't remember anything about it besides the two characters, and I don't know what their names were. But I mean, one was Freddy.
Yeah.
But the only thing I remember about that game is there's a part where you have to get a sea urchin off of the ground, and you have to click on the sea urchin, and then you have to put it in a bucket so that it drops down the bucket and opens the gate up. And I did not know what a sea urchin was. So for like 3 weeks straight, I was just clicking on everything, just trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. And every like 15 seconds, they had a looping dialogue where like, I think we need to use the sea urchin or something like that. And in my child brain, I don't know what that means. So
there was no Google, but I guess you didn't have Microsoft Encarta to 1998 or whatever. Like you actually had to go to a store, buy like a box that had like 18 CDs in it, and that was Wikipedia. And it was never updated. It was just Wikipedia for that specific time. Anything that happened after that, you had to buy the next version of Microsoft Encarta. I don't know if you knew that. That's like
Madden.
yeah. It was the Wikipedia used to be mad. Crazy, eh?
I'm not a fan.
Awesome. So it was Freddy Fish, Super Mario. Those are games I'm guessing you played like with people, with relatives. Like I guess point and click adventures are probably not co-op, but did they just abandon you in the room and leave you there?
Yeah, they just sat me down in there and watched TV. I was never really like a sit still kind of kid, so I would play those games though, and they were like, all right, well, I think this is the investment that we need to just keep in mind.
Babysat by Nintendo. That was most kids had that babysitter, so don't feel bad. I was the same way.
Well, we definitely. Well, I just moved straight on into Nintendo 64 after that, and I'm not sure because there's a huge gap in my memory there. But what I specifically remember about Nintendo 64 was Turok, and if I remember correctly, you didn't really have a Nintendo 64, did you?
No, but I've definitely played fucking Turok, man, because you can shoot a gun into, or you can shoot like a mine or something into someone's brain and blow their head up.
The cerebral bore, yeah,
cerebral
that was
bore. That's what it's called. Yeah.
Every single time people talk about shooters in Nintendo 64, like multiplayer wise, they are always talking about GoldenEye, and I'm like, no, I want to play Turok 2. That game ran at like 2 frames a second, but you got to obliterate someone's skull. I was like, this is metal. Before I knew what metal was.
Yeah, so the Nintendo 64, you already had mentioned Turok. Given that was kind of like not the first console you played, but the first console like that was yours, the first console that there wouldn't be like some other prerequisite for you to play. Like you didn't have to go to your uncle's house or go to your aunt's house to play on her computer or whatever. That this was your console. So I'm guessing that there's some significance to that one. I'm wondering, outside of Turok, was there any games or any other memories surrounding the N64 that stand out?
The first thing that comes to my mind, which funny enough doesn't involve my own Nintendo 64, but the local McDonald's used to have a play place that had 4 Nintendo 64s in the play place itself, like just for public use. And like one had Mario Party and one had something and one had something, but the last one had Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on it. And let me tell you, I was absolutely addicted to this game to the point where my mom, who was completely oblivious to games at the time, had to figure out what the hell this game I was playing was so that because I would be glued to it. I was like, no more play place. I'm a big kid now, and I'm playing this dude flipping around on this board. Even though for the most part, I just ride around and ollie and do nothing else.
Yeah, dude, I remember back then, like Burger King tried to like kind of swoop in and steal the big kid market share by introducing the big kid meals that came with like more food and a better toy. But McDonald's had freaking N64, so why would you ever go to Burger King? Like they totally messed that up.
Yeah,
and Tony Hawk had like a yellow
gross.
cart, right? Didn't that game have a yellow 64 cart?
Yeah, it did. It was super easy to pick out.
There you go. So did you end up getting that game?
Oh yeah, and I played it a ton. And my dad eventually got really addicted to it too. Whenever he was around, it was pretty awesome to play with that. Especially because the soundtrack, he was just so surprised at the music coming out of the TV while I was playing that game. He was like, because we played Super Mario World together at some point in my life, but he's like, look at this is what video games are. This is what I bought him. Like this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I know the soundtrack was killer, like Papa Roach, Alley Life, all kinds of awesome stuff. I actually played it on PlayStation, which I didn't own a 64 like you had mentioned earlier. So like my usage of it was like I wasn't really focused on the details, let's say, because I was always at my buddy's house. I know that the PlayStation obviously had like incredible audio for the time because it was a freaking CD that you were playing the game on. So was the actual music quality on like the 64 like CD like, or like, I guess you might have been too young to really hear the difference. I probably would have been too, but
I don't think it was. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, the Nintendo 64 version only, because in the game you only played for 2 minutes, so the Nintendo 64 version of each song was only like 2 minutes and 10 seconds long, whereas on the PlayStation it was a complete song. Or I don't know where. I think it's the Superman documentary, like I'm a Superman
Goldfinger?
documentary, whatever. Yeah, Goldfinger, amazing.
Such a good song, one of the best songs like ever for sure. And that game definitely popularized it. What was your favorite skater?
Rodney Mullen.
What? It's all about Rune, man. Christ Air, left right B or left right circle, I guess, on PlayStation.
The person I played first was Bob Burnquist because I thought Bob was a funny name for a skateboarder. And so I played Bob Burnquist, but I beat the game with every character, and so mostly with the help of my dad towards the end of each levels. But you get like a skate video, and once we got to Rodney Mullen, who's only like the 4th or 5th one down out of like 12 or 13 skaters, I think, I was like, oh, this is my boy forever. Like if he's in a video game, I'm gonna play as this guy. Like he's like doing handstands and the board's upside down. There's no wheels on the other side. How does that even work? As a kid, I'm like freaking out about it.
What was his special move? I can't remember. Wasn't it like some kind of grind, like a dark slide?
Yeah, the dark slide, and then I think he had the Casper on Tony Hawk 1 as well. I have the Tony Hawk 1 and 2 remakes, and so they're all confused. But my custom character is just Rodney Mullen that looks like me. So he just has Rodney Mullen's moves.
Yeah, I still have to pick that up. I play Tony Hawk 2X on original Xbox. That's the one that I put the most time in. I still play it because soundtrack's great. I think Tony Hawk 2 was the better of the original 3. But yeah, that's an incredible game. And it's one of the best games of that gen too, and it was multi-platform, so everybody got a shot at it. You had mentioned that you had a PS1 as well. Anything in particular stand out there?
The PS1, I had probably out of all of my consoles, I've had the least amount of time with, and but I definitely have some good memories with Crash Bandicoot.
Mhm.
And by good memories, I mean I was very angry at that game a lot. So I have a lot of memories just because they're mostly of me being frustrated and my dad laughing at me. And I'm going, oh, okay, well, I guess this is funny. Like, I guess me being upset is funny.
It was
But
hard, man. It was really hard. That was the pack-in game that came with my PS1, and I don't know how I beat it when I was like 7 or 8, because I have like the Insane trilogy, and man, it's tough. I didn't beat 2 or 3 yet on that, but I beat 1, and it was it took like all my Dark Souls experience to get through that. That
one was
game was tough.
miserable.
Yeah, especially like I don't know if you had the DualShock, but I didn't. So when I originally
yeah.
played it, I just had a D-pad to play a 3D platformer, which was a nightmare in itself.
I literally never had the DualShock, so I always used the D-pad. And in fact, because I never really played Crash. I played Crash on the PS2 a little bit, but I was pretty much grown out of it at that point. I was playing like, I don't know, Grand Theft Auto and stuff. And so whenever I played the Insane Trilogy, I was using the stick for a while, and I was like, I have to use the D-pad. Like, this is so strange right now, but I have to use the D-pad because that's what I'm used to.
Nice. Was there anything else on PS1 that you wanted to bring up?
I have this specific memory where my mom like pawned me off on one of her friends, and so to like babysit me for a few days. And so when I got there, she had her nephew there. It was like an old lady kind of. She had a nephew there who was a little bit older than me, and he had a PlayStation 1. This is back when I had a Nintendo 64 still. And I was playing like Turok and stuff. Well, this was around the time that Final Fantasy VIII came out, and that's what he had in his PlayStation. He was playing that. And I had no idea what I was looking at, but I fucking loved it. Like, I was like, this is like, look at these characters. This is like my first exposure to a PlayStation, probably, actually, now that I think about it. And so the music was amazing, and people were talking, and there were speech bubbles, and I could barely read, but I was like reading what they were saying, and like the characters can like talk to each other like in a sophisticated way. So he sat me down and he restarted the game, and anyone who's played Final Fantasy VIII knows it has like an extravagant cutscene at the beginning, and I'm watching it like this is a movie. Like this is unbelievable. And ever since then, my perception of video games completely changed with Final Fantasy VIII of all games. Like everyone loves to hate that game. Actually, that game's getting a lot of love recently on Twitter, but yeah, I spent a long time after that just pursuing that game because he probably told me what it was called, but I forgot immediately. I have a horrible memory, and in case you didn't notice from the first 10 seconds of the episode.
Yeah.
But he didn't drill it into my head, so I just went on through my childhood with this figment of imaginary game that I wanted from video games, and it kind of like soured the rest of my playing a little bit because I would just imagine this sophisticated adult game that I could be playing, and you know how much kids wants to be adults.
That's funny. Yeah, I think I never I was kind of anti JRPG, at least in the first like third of my life. I didn't really resonate with any of those. So I knew about Final Fantasy, but I never thought it would be any fun to play. But I think that Final Fantasy VIII, like the leap that they were able to do with the cutscenes, I think that's what inspired them to make that original Final Fantasy movie. I think it's called Advent Children. Is that right? Some Spirits Within. It's called Spirits Within.
Yeah. I was thinking hard.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of cool how that originated because they still had made a few of them. I think maybe Advent Children was they made a new one that was connected to Final Fantasy VII. That might be.
Yeah, that's Advent Children.
Right. I never saw that one. I should watch it though because I loved 7 Remake. But I had recently watched, in the last year or so, watched Kingsglaive. And that was dope. That's oh my God. Like the animation and cinematography in that. So good. And I think that Final Fantasy VIII was kind of like the seed that kind of got planted and grew into those types of movies. And it's not just Final Fantasy because I think I don't know what came first, Final Fantasy VIII or some of the stuff that Blizzard did with some of their early cutscenes, but those kind of really like blazed the trail for in-game cinematics. And those companies, both like Square Enix and Blizzard, are still kind of like leaders in that space in terms of like really insane like CGI cutscenes. So that's pretty cool. You had mentioned that you also had a Game Boy. I don't know if you travel a lot or we're traveling to different people's houses all the time. I'm sure that kind of made those car rides a little bit easier. I'm wondering if there's anything that stands out in Game Boy, or if you had anything left to say about the PlayStation.
I kind of want to rewind. Have you ever played Final Fantasy VIII?
I haven't played Final Fantasy VIII, but there is I don't know if you noticed, there's like an audio clip from Final Fantasy VIII in the audio transition for this generation.
I just thought it could, because you said that this game was the seed that was planted that made the games. Well, in that game, you are in a school. You're in like a school for mercenaries called a garden, and the characters are training to become what is called a seed. So I thought you were making. I was like very tickled for a second. I thought that was I was so. But people
maybe I did
that.
play it. Maybe that's just like maybe it was like on a demo disc or something that I did play it. Maybe that's what made me not like JRPGs. I don't know. No, I'm pretty sure I didn't play it. I did install it though on Game Pass. I just never clicked start yet, and that was like a year ago. So it's probably,
it is definitely one of the more complicated ones. But as far as the Game Boy is concerned, at that point I had a Game Boy Color, and I was playing Pokemon, so I was kind of acclimated to the fighting system. So it didn't bother me as much at that point. I don't know if I'm getting years mixed up now, but I'm pretty sure I had already played Pokemon at that point, because I remember playing, because you in the game very early on you can fight a T-Rex, and I remember going, I'm just gonna keep grinding until that's not what I thought, but I was like, I'm just gonna keep getting experience until I could fight this T-Rex. So I was familiar with like general mechanics of JRPGs.
Yeah, it's funny because I played a ton of Pokemon. Like Pokemon, I think I had blue. I asked for red, and my mom's like, they didn't have red, so I got you blue. I'm like, what? You should have just went to another store. Are you crazy? So I had blue, and then I got yellow as well as like kind of a apology for my birthday the next year. So I definitely played a ton of Pokemon, because like every kid that is like in our age group in that era probably played a ton of Pokemon, but I never like put it together that Pokemon is a JRPG. Like I would be like, I love this game. This game's so great. And then I would play like a JRPG on a demo disc or something, because I always would try to get the magazines that came with demo discs or whatever. And I would hate them. And I'd be like, I don't like turn-based. I want like action games. And then I would just play Pokemon instead, which is like the same exact thing. So I'm lucky, I guess, that my brain never connected those two things. Or maybe I'm not, because maybe that would have made me want to play JRPGs, and I could have played Final Fantasy VII a lot earlier. But
yeah,
c'est la vie.
I didn't really know what a role-playing game was. I had like no real gamers in my life for a very long time. I just had my dad buying me expensive toys, which happened to be video games. So, but I have a Pokemon story where I used to have the old Game Boy Color, but the Pikachu edition, the yellow Game Boy Color with the Pikachu face on it.
Yeah.
I think I told this on the podcast pretty early, like maybe episode 4 or 5, but I was playing in the bathroom, like I was peeing and standing up over the toilet, and I was playing the game, and I was catching something, and I was mashing the button because someone in the schoolyard told me that would help me catch the Pokemon, and I punched the Game Boy out of my hand and dropped it in the toilet. And
Pre
it was
or
only
post flush?
I think it was pre-flush.
Yikes.
So it was awful. And now I'm traumatized about toilets and anything. Like my cell phone, I hold it like 90 degrees away from me, like arm almost all the way extended away. It's like awful.
I mean, at least you had the yellow one.
Well, I think those are expensive now. That thing was destroyed though. I was very unhappy. I didn't get another Game Boy for like 5 or 6 months, so I just had to watch my friends play Pokemon.
Oh, the worst. Awesome. Well, that might wrap up quarter number 1. I would like to give you the award for being the only person to have not mentioned Metal Gear Solid. I don't know if that's a good award or a bad award, but it's your award, so congratulations.
Yeah, I wasn't too into a lot of video games. I mean, I played a lot of Nintendo games. So, like I said, my PlayStation memory is very short.
Awesome. Well, that puts an end to quarter number 1. We're going to jump into quarter number 2. But before we do, we're going to put another coin into that arcade time machine and take a quick look at what gaming was like during that era.
Always one of the most eagerly awaited video games finally goes on sale.
Preparing to rewrite retail history.
Video game is expected to have bigger first-day revenues than any movie has ever had an opening day at the box office.
The latest video game war is heating up tonight. Nintendo's GameCube system is about to hit the stores.
Far from the Mushroom Kingdom, among a people enchanted by sunshine, Mario has taken a break from the hopping, the bopping, and saving the princess.
All to fulfill his destiny, which is, above all else, to save me.
The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker.
Good afternoon, I'm Donna Gregory. And I'm Heidi Deja. There are waiting lists and tickets just to stand in line and get a chance to buy PlayStation 2.
A story of one man's struggle to save mankind from extermination and his quest to win the heart of the woman he loves.
And a new myth will be written in the blood of the old. God of War, rated M for mature.
Just like the Xbox, it is truly the future of video games, and I'm very excited to simply be a part of it if you smell what The Rock is cooking.
I just got into Xbox Live. I have this really great high-speed connection, and
I need a weapon.
There are those who said this day would never come. What are they to say now?
Rated M for mature.
2000 to 2007. As one warrior falls, two shall take its place, as is the creed of the console wars. As Sega is laid to rest, Sony beefs up and Microsoft joins the fight, bringing forth the era of the most influential game since Mario, changing people's perspective in more ways than one, while also taking gaming to a new frontier, high-speed internet. Tell me, Nave, in this era of your gaming life, what devices did you game on? What was your favorite? And do you remember how you got them?
At this point, I think I started on the GameCube and moved to PlayStation 2, then Xbox, and then somewhere in the middle, I had a Game Boy Advance, I mean. I got the Game Boy Advance and the SP. And I might have had is PSP in this area too? This is too early, I think.
I think PSP came out before the PS3. Did it? Yeah, it did. 100% did, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so PSP 2, I get it's obviously not as important since I don't remember when it even came out. GameCube, though, I was playing a lot of Luigi's Mansion and Burnout. And I'm sure you've played Burnout, right? At least.
Burnout 3 a lot, yeah.
I don't remember which Burnout it was. It might have been the very first one. Because I had the GameCube pretty early on in the life cycle. And Mario Sunshine was pretty awesome too. Did you ever play the GameCube?
I've played the GameCube probably the least of all the consoles I've ever played. I played like maybe 30 minutes of Resident Evil 4 on GameCube. And maybe one game of Smash, like at some point in time.
Ooh, that's a good segue into a memory I was going to talk about anyway. I remember specifically my dad, I probably had the GameCube for 2 or 3 weeks, and my dad bought Resident Evil 1, the original remake.
Mm-hmm.
And I still only had Luigi's Mansion, Burnout, and Mario Sunshine, so this fourth mythical game was sitting there that I wasn't allowed to touch, and he locked it up in a cabinet where he kept all the liquor. So I was like, I'm going to get that game eventually. And eventually, he did leave the cabinet unlocked. And I grabbed the case real silently. I walked back into my room, put the little tiny CD in, and played for about 15 minutes before I had nightmares for the rest of my childhood life. Whenever this first zombie turns around and looks at you, and you don't see him at the beginning. You have to walk up to him around a corner. It's horrible. It's the worst.
That's an
Actually,
iconic shot, though.
yeah, and I was not ready for it. Like he told me not to play it too, so I was already like expecting something forbidden to happen, and I was not ready for that.
Did he play it though? Like, is that a game that he actually got time through or finished even?
I don't think he finished it. He probably played it for probably 2 or 3 hours and went, "This is hard," and then stopped because he was, like I said, he wasn't really a gamer, but I think he recognized Resident Evil at least because I had Resident Evil 2 on the Nintendo, and oh, this is a story I didn't even write this down. Never mind. It's over now. So the GameCube was mostly just a Nintendo machine until I finally got a PlayStation, and then that's when the passion for finding that RPG reignited. And at this point, I was starting to get old enough to articulate what I was imagining. So I remember specifically I went to this used game store that sold like it was like a comic book store that had baseball cards and also some video games occasionally. And I talked to him. I was like, "There's this game. The guys fight like in Pokemon, and he looks really cool, and he's got an awesome sword." And so he goes, "I got you," and he takes me to the back, not to the back of the store, to some other area.
The beaded room.
Yeah, the beaded room where the PlayStation 1 games are. And he grabs Final Fantasy VII and hands it to me. And as I'm looking at it, in the corner of my eye, I see Final Fantasy VIII's case. And I'm staring at that one. I reach over to grab it, and I remember right before I grab it, he goes, "Oh, no, you don't want that one. This is the one you want." And I looked back down at Final Fantasy VII, and I was like, I guess I remembered this game wrong. Because I just trusted him. He was an adult. And he worked at the game store. So I was like, I guess I remember this game wrong. So I got home and played Final Fantasy VII for probably about 8 or 9 hours and just slowly got more and more disappointed with it because it wasn't what I remembered it being. And I stopped playing. Before I even got out of Midgar, I was like, I can't do this. This game is kind of dumb and it's ugly. I'm out of here. Because at this point, I was playing the GameCube also. Eventually, I come back around to it like a little bit later and end up falling in love with the game, especially the soundtrack. One thing I forgot to mention, because this is before Spotify and all. Let's future-proof this. All the audio streaming, the internet, all that stuff that didn't exist. So what I used to do is, and it's something I learned from Resident Evil, is I would make multiple save slots, as many as I possibly could. In Resident Evil, you can accidentally screw yourself by saving over one slot over and over again, and if you save over your save and you use too much ammo, you have to restart the whole game all over because there's no more ammo. You're done. So the move is to just make multiple save slots, just save all the way down. Well, I used to do that in games that would allow me, so I would have like a jukebox. I would have different save slots in different areas where I wanted to listen to music. Like I was gonna say I did it in Ocarina of Time, but no, you can just teleport around in that, because I would listen to the Gerudo Valley song and the Lost Woods song, and just have them playing in my room as I played with like action figures. So, and that was our Spotify back in the day. But I used to do this with Final Fantasy VII. I had like 15 different slots saved of different parts of the game where I was like, I like this music. I need to make another save in my like music area.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was surprised that you never mentioned Ocarina of Time with Nintendo 64. But I wanted to quickly touch on first of all, this would have been if you got a PS2 on day one, this would have been like 2000. So Kazaa and like LimeWire, that was a thing. Napster. So, I mean, I appreciate the ingenuity, but there was another alternative. But also, I wanted to quickly touch on the mom and pop collectible game store or whatever, because there was, I mean, I don't know what it's like where you are, but where I am, almost all of those have kind of dried up. It's basically just GameStop that's left. But back in those times, those were there was as many, if not more of them than there was mainstream kind of video game stores. And what's cool about those, which is like a double-edged sword, is that one, the people that work there are typically like really passionate about video games, and they're going to have a lot more information than like the minimum wage people at like EB Games or whatever. Like in general, there's obviously give and takes on both sides, but on the flip side, they're also very biased, because like what happened with you is something that happened to me almost. I luckily wasn't like so trustworthy of like these neckbeard dudes that worked at like the local game store, because I went in after Christmas when I got my Xbox. So it would have been like 2002 or 3, and I really wanted to spend my Christmas money, to buy the Xbox Live starter kit. And I went there with my dad, and like he whatever, like I asked for it and he got it out. He said, to my dad, because my dad didn't even know what it was. So my dad asked him what it was, and the guy tried to tell my dad like not to let me buy it. He was like, oh, it's just this weird online thing that you have to pay for. Like online gaming isn't meant for consoles. It'll never be a big thing on consoles. Xbox is kind of like small as it is. Like everybody has a PlayStation, nobody has an Xbox. And like, if you want to play online, the only place to do that really is going to be PC. And I don't see that ever changing. And I'm like,
That sounds spiteful.
I was like, okay, well, I want to buy this because I want to play Mech Assault and Unreal Tournament or Unreal Championship. So I don't care what you say, because I'm playing this. Like I'm spending my money. So like I was like 12, and I was like telling this fanboy to like back off, get your own sandwich or whatever. And so I almost made a horrible decision as well. Even though I think, from what I understand, most people's opinion is that 7's better than 8, right?
Yes,
Final
8
Fantasy?
is definitely a black sheep, mostly because the entire core mechanics of the game are vastly different than every other game around it. Like all of the Final Fantasy games are way more simple and easier to understand than this one, because oh no, if I had to explain it, it's going to take forever, but it's very complicated. There are good YouTube videos. Like I recommend it. It's very fun. And even though it's super complicated, once you understand what the junction system is and how you get magic and where your magic should be put, you can personalize your character so specifically to each situation. It's so much freedom. It's a really awesome system. It just takes a lot of grinding. Luckily, the remasters let you cheat and get 999 of each magic, because in this game, magic, you don't have magic points. You literally have a stock of magic like you do with potions and Phoenix Downs. So It's like I have 15 fires. If you use fire, then you have 14 fires. I'm explaining it anyway, I guess, huh?
Well, that's kind of cool, because that means you can't just like, I know, like I'm a JRPG noob. I played 2 of them, Golden Sun and Final Fantasy VII Remake. And in both games, especially in Golden Sun, there's always one ability that you can just spam, like Doom 2016, the Super Shotgun. It's the turn-based equivalent of that, where it's one tool that solves every problem in the game. So if there was like a limit to how much you could use that tool, and then it would force you to think of other strategies, which would make the game better, like at a high level, like that's my take on it anyway.
The thing about that game too is that the more you use the good magic, the weaker you get, because what the junction system is if you want to increase how much hit points you have or how much damage you do, you have to junction magic to that particular trait. And that's its own thing too. But anyways, if you have like super strong magic on your hit points, you're less inclined to use that magic in battle, because it makes your hit point stat go down. Like it makes you weaker, actually. Like slowly, not really fast. Like you won't kill yourself on accident, but it's really cool. And you can become incredibly overpowered too, because if you just sit there and farm like it's an MMO, just farming the Ultima spell or something, and you slap that baby on your strength, you're going to be striking 9,999 every time, and it's going to feel good.
Well, maybe that was the problem they were trying to solve, was to make it more difficult to just use that one trick pony for the whole game.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it sounds like. I mean, from a noob's perspective anyway. Was there anything else on PS2 that really stood out to you?
Okay, we're talking about PS2, huh?
I mean, so far you've talked about 2 PS1 games after you brought up PS2.
Well, I did play that was actually most of my time, I think, besides whenever I got Guitar Hero finally. But by then I'd already sold my PlayStation and gotten an Xbox, and then eventually got another PlayStation. for Guitar Hero. But on the Xbox, I played a lot of ATV Off-Road Fury. At this point, I was slowly learning about video games because I don't know if I mentioned this before. I think I did at the beginning, but I basically was moving every semester in school. I was in a different town, or
Oh,
every
really?
quarter. Yeah, I literally had like no friends as a kid because I was constantly moving around, and so I didn't have like a real way to like accumulate knowledge of video games, but at some point someone mentioned role playing game to me. And in my head I'm like, role playing game where you play a role, right? Okay. And so I thought like games like Mario 64 were role playing games because you play the role of Mario. I was like, that makes sense, I guess. And it was at this point when I was talking about Final Fantasy, that guy described to me what a role playing game was. Well, probably like a year and a half later, I have an Xbox, and I'm walking through a store called Hastings. I don't know if that's like a local store or something. It's definitely a chain where I'm at, it was. It's gone now. But I saw a game in the case, and it was backwards, and the back of it said it said something along the lines of like most immersive RPG of its time, like must play, like on it's like only on Xbox.
Can I guess it?
Go ahead. You know,
Is it Morrowind?
It was Morrowind.
Yes, I knew that because I seen that at Blockbuster.
I saw that and I went, wait, role playing game, and it like I'm like, I've got the numbers going around, the calculus around my head, and I'm like, okay, I think I need to get this game if it's the best one. And so
why would they lie? Like,
yeah,
as an adult probably wrote this
because I'm expecting Final Fantasy. Whenever I'm like, I'm just gonna get this game, and no one around me has any knowledge, so they're just like, yeah, sure, if that's what you want. And now imagine my surprise when I pop that baby in, expecting Final Fantasy like 7, and I'm playing, and wake up on that ship.
Juib wakes you up.
Oh my goodness!
Finally awake. Not even last night's storm could wake you.
I had a love-hate relationship with that game. I legitimately hated it, and also was so intrigued by it. Like, there's so much intrigue, but I could not play the game. I did not understand it at all. But I learned what the word fatigue was. I learned the word fatigue. I looked it up in a dictionary, and then later on in PE class, I said I was fatigued, and I'm still a child. So the PE teacher's like, "What did you just say? Fatigued?" What?
That's amazing.
These kids.
Did you have the Game of the Year edition or the first release?
It was the Game of the Year edition, yeah.
Right. So that one actually had like enemies had like health bars, right? Like that gold bar.
I can't remember because my memories now are playing it on Steam.
Okay.
With, like, mods and stuff. So I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Yeah, that's a game that I rented and like returned angrily like 5 times until like the 6th or 7th time I was like, you know what, this is actually pretty sweet. It's a lot to read, but like, and the cliff racers, like, oh my god, they're like one of the most frustrating enemies like in any game. They just repeat the same noise over and over again. They can come from literally anywhere. Even I feel like even indoors they can just fly at you somehow. And I played the non-Game of the Year edition where it's already kind of annoying in Morrowind because like you have like when you start the game, obviously you have like no abilities or you have like no stats. So like there's a mechanic where you have to have a higher enough stat with a weapon to consistently hit with it. So not only are you like missing, even though you're on the screen, it looks like you're hitting them, but also you can't tell how close they are to dying. They just take damage and eventually die in the regular release. So like there's cliff racers are in the sky, like pecking at you. You don't even know if you're reaching them or if you can reach them or if you're hitting them. It was just, yeah, but the game is phenomenal. It's like one of the best games I've ever made.
I think around that time I was starting to go to public libraries. Like I had literally, because you remember you brought up Napster before. I literally didn't know what the internet was at this point in my life. Like I used it a few times. I'm like, this is interesting, but I don't understand it, and so I just never bothered with it. I started going to public libraries when I realized they had computers with public access to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I met a couple of kids, and they showed me this game called RuneScape. Did you ever play RuneScape?
I did. I thought it was called Run Escape for.
I also did think it was called
like a year. Yeah, I think I got to like level like 40 something. I got a rune longsword, and then I went back to the best game of that era, Habbo Hotel.
Habbo Hotel. Yeah, RuneScape Lumbridge was my Habbo hotel. But I remember playing in the public library. Like every time I would move, I would just find out where the public library was and just like keep asking my dad or my mom or whoever's watching me at the time to just leave me there for a few hours. And it got so bad. I was in this town called Muskogee, and my addiction to RuneScape got so bad that I walked around and because you have a library card, you type in the number and you get like an hour or something. That's how the the library worked back where I was. What am I talking about? Muskogee, one of those.
Muskogee Library RuneScape hours.
You get an hour with one card, and you can use that 2 times. So, but 2 hours of RuneScape, that's not enough, especially when you're trying to escape your family. So, I walked around, and if people had their library cards out, I would just steal their number, and then just remember what they looked like, so that if they were there, if they weren't there by the time I got done with my 2 hours, I would just use their 2 hours. And the librarians, I feel like they knew what I was doing, but they just didn't care. They're just like, this kid clearly just wants to be here on the computer, so just let him be there on the computer. And there was never any like full. They were never full or anything. So I was just constantly playing that and a game called Adventure Quest, which was just a JRPG, I guess, but it was like really bad like animation and stuff, and everything was really ugly. But I would cut trees down in RuneScape and then play Adventure Quest in another tab, and then flip back to RuneScape to make sure I was still cutting a tree, and then flip back and do my attack or my magic, whatever I was doing. I was like getting hardcore into RPG mechanics.
Nice. So that was my question, I guess, was going to be like, you didn't have a computer at home, right? Like, so that's why you had to go to the library so much?
Yeah. I didn't get a computer at home till probably like, I don't know. It was after I had an Xbox 360. Like, we had internet and we did not have a computer. It was a strange
It's a bold
situation.
strategy.
Yeah. Well, I begged for it.
Nice. So I guess, did you have Xbox Live?
I did have Xbox Live. We had internet just so that I could play the Xbox. And eventually we got a really bad hand-me-down computer that I would return to RuneScape on.
Nice. I guess one question I did have was, you had mentioned that you had moved around a lot when you were younger, and so like you never really had like a way or like a place to kind of like I guess set down roots and like kind of get into like the local zeitgeist of gaming discussion. I'm assuming that it was also difficult to like have like long friendships with the kids at school and stuff like that. So I'm wondering, now that you're playing games on Xbox Live and you're playing online role-playing games like RuneScape, was that kind of also on top of being like a fun experience playing the game, was it a way that you were able to kind of anchor down on some relationships with different people? Because you're like, even if you move, you can still log back into RuneScape or Xbox Live and play with whomever.
I never had Xbox Live on the original Xbox. But in RuneScape, I was starting to make friends there, and at that point, I was like learning about forum websites, and so I was just kind of on like 8 or 9 different forum websites, just occasionally talking, and then going back and playing just as another thing in case I got bored of Adventure Quest. And at some point, you kind of do start talking to the same people, but I don't even remember anyone's name, to be completely honest. At that point, I was definitely just like, I've given up on making long-term friends. I was like, I guess this is just how life is, because as I was a kid, I'd always moved around, so I assumed just everyone moved around, because like there's no way I would be able to tell. So
true. Yeah, I didn't move around a lot. I really only moved like far enough where I would have to make new friends once. But when I did do that, I was able to play a game like RuneScape or have a hotel with people. It was kind of at an age where I wasn't necessarily playing with people that I was friends with in the original place I lived, but I was able to make new friends. And to me, like, I didn't make a ton. Like, I don't even talk to them anymore. I don't even remember their names, like you said. But at the time, it was nice to like not necessarily be the new kid in class. And that only happened to me once. So like, I can only imagine it happening several times. So yeah, that's why I wanted to ask that question there.
Yeah, I always wanted the Xbox Live on, because I did get Halo 2 eventually, and you get the card and you're just like looking at it like this looks like so. And at that point, I've been playing RuneScape, so I'm like, I can't. You can shoot people online too. Like you can do anything. This is the future.
Yeah, I remember I rented Unreal Championship to play at like a sleepover, and like there were the live enabled games. At least is what I think happened. They all kind of ship with like this, this, I guess, flag in the game that will trick your Xbox into like downloading an update that will add the kind of Xbox Live section to your original Xbox dashboard. And then that lets you create an account even if you have a trial code. So I think I got, it wouldn't have been Halo, but I got some Xbox Live enabled game that had that like 2-month trial. I think they were, and that's how I was able to get my gamer tag. And I played, I think it was NFL. I think it was like NFL 2K like 2 or something like that. And like I rented it from Blockbuster, and like I guess I was the first person to rent it because like the code was in there, and I stole it. And I tried playing football online without a mic or anything, just with the trial account, and that's what convinced me to save up for the starter pack. But yeah, no, like that was kind of a big transition in terms of how games were played. Like for me, it was Xbox, and for you, it might have been RuneScape. But even though I did play RuneScape as well, but that kind of like was like a landmark moment where how I was going to be playing games from now on kind of diverged from how I had been playing them up to that point. So for me anyway, it was pretty big. I'm guessing for you it was similar.
Well, I was still really into Guitar Hero. I don't even know if I've brought it up yet.
You brought up that you had it, but you haven't elaborated yet.
Well, whenever I first got it, or whenever I first played it, I was still pretty young. It was right when Guitar Hero 1 came out. My dad brought me to, like, it was probably one of his dealer's houses probably, and he sat me down in front of the TV, and there he was just like, there's a PlayStation, play something. And I saw that plastic guitar. I think I've told this story before too on the podcast, but I saw the plastic guitar and I was like, what is that thing right there? And he showed me how to play Guitar Hero for a second. I played like Hit Me With Your Best Shot or something like that, and I was on easy mode. And after halfway through the song, I'm like, oh, I got it. I understand. This is easy. And I immediately moved up to medium and started playing it. And eventually there's like 8 people in this house. They're all kind of just drinking at the little kitchen bar they have. And eventually they're in the living room watching me play this game going, I've been playing for like 3 weeks and I'm still on easy. How is he doing this? And it probably got this thing in my brain to where now I play these games and just have a constant endorphin rush or something where I absolutely love these games, these rhythm games, especially rock based rhythm games. I almost just said rock band.
Yeah, I think Guitar Hero was the first one was exclusive to PlayStation. It might have just been unintentional because I think it came out before the Xbox. Maybe I don't actually know, but I got Guitar Hero 2 on 360, and I had the exact same experience. It was definitely like something like I was kind of a little bit there. I didn't play a ton because it was expensive, but I was really into light gun games, which is not necessarily rhythm games, but it's kind of a similar experience where you have like a pretty cool peripheral, and it's not necessarily the same concept as a controller based game, but it's just really fun to kind of immerse yourself with whatever the peripheral is, whether it's a light gun or Guitar Hero guitar. And that for me, I had a light gun on my PS1, and I had a game called Crypt Killer, and it wasn't a really good game or anything, but it was really, really fun. And that's kind of what made me really want to play Guitar Hero. And yeah, that was kind of a big game for me too, starting with Guitar Hero 2. I don't even know what tracks were on the first one.
Guitar Hero, yeah, I don't know. I know Bark at the Moon by Ozzy Osbourne was on there because it was one of the hard ones. I was like, that was a real hurdle for me. And Guitar Hero 1 played differently from all the other Guitar Hero games, like the hammer-ons and pull-offs, how they functioned. It was not very intuitive. It was more realistic, but it was less intuitive. It was harder, so it was unfun in hard songs like that. Guitar Hero definitely like completely warped my perception of reality, though. Like, I, from a very young age, knew that I really, really liked music. I just didn't understand what music was. Because again, like I never like I didn't have people for video games or music or anything, so I was kind of just like exploring everything on my own. And once I realized that, I'm like, oh, people make music. Music doesn't just come. Like it's like there are, and then if I like this one, I can just find more of these guys. And it was great, and it definitely it spiraled into an addiction where now I'm just an audiophile. Is that what it's called? No, that's not. That's just someone who likes noises, right? I don't know. I love music so much.
There's probably a word for it for music. I think, audiophile is definitely people that like high quality sound or hi-fi sound. Doesn't necessarily have to be music. Usually it is music, but there's probably something. I don't know. We'll look it up in the post show.
Is that what the A in ASMR stands for? I have no idea. Anyway,
no clue. I mean, that makes sense. It's probably audio something. Anyway, was there anything else within this quarter that you wanted to bring up? What is there? I know in the first quarter you had mentioned that pretty much every console that you got was kind of a trade-in, trade-up scenario. Was there anything memorable about how you got any of these consoles, or anything that kind of sticks out?
Well, so this is into 2007, huh? So at this point, I did eventually get a 360. I think we can just save that for the next thing, though.
Sure,
that'd be easy.
Yep.
I think Cliff Notes, like Budokai 3, amazing. Play Budokai, play those Dragon Ball Z games. They're great. What else was great? Now I can think of is Dragon Ball Z games. I think that's fine. Guitar Hero is awesome too.
Nice. All right. Well, that puts an end to quarter number 2, and we're going to move right along into quarter number 3, which is 2007 until 2015. But before we do, we'll put one coin into the arcade time machine here and take a quick look at what gaming was like in that era.
We would like to play.
Do you have what it takes to wield the sword? The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword.
My past is not a memory. What's past is prologue.
Albion. A land bursting with life, beauty, and light. Its people unaware of the darkness that awaits them.
In darkness, a doom sweeps the land. These are the closing days of the third era and the final hours of my life.
You're competing with a psychopathic war criminal for a mythological gemstone?
I killed people, smuggled people, sold people.
When you put it that way, it does sound pretty stupid. Yeah, thanks for the input, Jeff.
I know what this nation needs. I will give you justice.
You are, all of you, vermin.
Tomorrow we launch the greatest military campaign in our history.
Your world will burn until its surface is but glass.
Cocky bastard just loves to run his mouth. I didn't come here to run from the Hellcast. Order the attack!
Shipmaster, outnumber us 3-1.
Then it is an even fight.
Where are we going? To finish what we started!
Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
2007 to 2015. There was no scope required for the 360's instant success, as its HD games cut through the standard def games of the past with each swipe of the Blade's UI. Would the swiftness of the Xbox's early release and dual concavity design simulating an inhale win the day, or would the pure beef and brawn of the PS3 flip the 360 on its back and grill it for massive damage? Or will it all be for naught as Nintendo sets the world on fire with the Wii? Nave, what games did you play during this era? What console did you play them on? And do you remember how you got them?
I definitely wanted a PlayStation 3 really bad. I was at this point I had already played Final Fantasy 8 and 10, and after playing Morrowind, I was like, I guess this is what RPGs are on the Xbox. I want the PlayStation RPGs for the most part. And so hearing about the PlayStation 3 releasing like a year later and the more expensive price tag and everything, I'm in a very poor family still at this point. So it's like I had to make some compromises. Like I'm going to the public library to get on the internet still at this point. And so I was like, maybe I'll get the Xbox 360, but I don't really know what I want. And I think around this time Rock Band gets announced. I don't know. Is it on PlayStation 3, the first Rock Band, like on release? I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Well, I think Halo 3 was also coming out as well.
That
And
was 2007.
I didn't have a 360 at launch. I didn't have any. I don't think I had any console at launch besides the Dreamcast. So it's probably a few years. I pre-order Halo 3. I buy Gears of War, the first one, and I buy Lost Planet. Those are my first 3 Xbox 360 games, and I do not have a 360 for months. Like I don't have a 360 even after Halo 3 launches. I go to the midnight release, I get Halo 3, and I just get this. I get the Steelbook edition, the fat one that doesn't hold the disc very good.
So you bought all of these without owning the consoles, what you're saying?
Yes, I had these games just sitting in my room, and I wasn't able to play them because we couldn't afford the console yet. I did eventually get the 360, and I started playing the living hell out of Halo 3. But I wasn't exactly sold. Like at this point, I liked Halo, but I wasn't like obsessed with Halo. I still had never played it online before. So eventually I beg my dad, even though we don't have a computer, I beg him for the internet and Xbox Live. I start playing Halo 3 religiously. I start asking people around the school. Like I start coming out of my shell almost, like because I hear people talking about Halo 3. And so I'm like looking desperately for someone to play this game with because I'm just like running into people screaming at me on the internet. Like that's just kind of how it was back in the day. And eventually I found a couple of friends who would play with me occasionally. My life as far as friends were concerned never really took a turn until Rock Band came out. And this is another story that I've already told on the podcast, but I can elaborate a lot more here since we're specifically talking about our memories. I get Rock Band day one. Like I had to pre-order it because I think you said in one of your episodes, that since the boxes were so big, they were hard to ship. So you had to like pre-order from GameStop so that you could get your copy because otherwise they only had like 2 copies of Rock Band.
Mm-hmm.
and there was no way if I didn't get the pre-order. I was definitely going to get that game. And as soon as I got it, I played it. I played on the drums. I played the vocals. I was like, this is amazing. This is fantastic. I have to tell everyone in the school. So I went around telling everyone in the school, like for 2 days straight, telling everyone that Rock Band was awesome. People I didn't know, just walking up to them that I knew played Xbox at least. And eventually, about lunchtime, I think I'm in 8th grade. Philip, my co-host to Gaming Together, he comes up to me with another guy, Steven. These 2 guys would soon become my best friends. And they're like, we're coming over to your house and playing Rock Band. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess you are. So that's neat. I wanted this at some point in my head, but it was so jarring. It happened so fast. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to have some people over, I guess. I have no idea who these people are. I've never talked to them before in my life. And at the end of the day, I walk home every day. At the end of the day, 2 people flag me down and they're like, hey, we're coming over and we're playing Rock Band. Their name is Garrett and I can't remember the other guy's name, but his nickname was Candyman. And so I'm like, okay, well, you can walk home with me, I guess. And I forgot about Philip and Steven at this point. Philip and Steven run after me, chasing me down the street, and they're like, "Hey, we're coming over still, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." There's 5 of us now, so that's an awkward number. But okay, yeah, sure. So everyone goes to my shitty duplex with like one chair in the living room and a TV, and that's all we have, and the Xbox is in there. And I'm like, all right, well, there's only one chair, so whoever's playing the drums can sit in the chair, and everyone else is gonna have to stand up. And we play Rock Band for a while. Eventually, Philip's mom just comes over. I guess he gave her our address, and she's like, "Come on, you have to go home and eat dinner." I'm like, all right, well, bye then, guys. And he's like, "No, grab all of these instruments, and we're going to my house." And I'm just like, okay, man, I guess we're doing that. Do you have an Xbox? You know what I mean? He's very direct when he was younger. He's still kind of direct, but especially with me. But I was like, all right. And eventually we went over to his house. His mom cooked enough for all of us, and we sat in his den and just played Xbox games all night. And we all just fell asleep there. And my dad, of course, had no idea where I was. He was like, whatever. And at that point, I kind of just stayed the night at his house every day, essentially. Like, I basically was his roommate for all of high school. After that, like, we really just bonded over Halo 3 and Rock Band, like, completely. And that was whenever I finally kind of stood up to my parents about all of this, like, moving around. Like, I kind of was like, no, I can't do this anymore. Like, I finally, like, made friends. I can't leave. Like, I have to stay here. And so I literally never stayed at one school for more than a semester. And then I ended up staying all the way through high school. It was great.
Wow. Yeah, that's so awesome, dude. Like, the whole time, like, through every quarter where you were saying, like, I kept moving around a lot, didn't have a lot of friends, didn't really have anyone to play with. I was just waiting for you to mention, like, where in your life timeline that video game, because I just, like, the same thing happened to me. The same thing happens to a lot of people. I knew that there was going to be a video game or something like that that really kind of turned the tide. And it's just so awesome to hear those stories. That's awesome. Philip's mom is awesome. Like, to let all those kids just come over, and to let someone that his son, like, that she had never met, like, stay the night and, like, cook for them and facilitate kind of that friendship, and the fact that it's lasted so long. Like I talked to maybe like 3 people that I went to high school with, and it, like, those friendships generally kind of like wane off for a lot of people. So the fact that it's still going is so strong, and it all started because of, like, video games. Like, that's exactly the type of stories that I love to hear on shows like this, and it's just great. I was waiting for this. I thought it might have happened with Xbox Live or RuneScape, but no, like, that's awesome that it was Rock Band too, because Rock Band's such a social experience. Like, you can play it online, I believe, but, like, to get everybody in a room, to get a full band together in a room is a one of a kind experience that I don't think will ever be replicated in future generations, or in this generation of gaming where everything is online, and games with peripherals like that really don't sell as well, and stuff like that. But yeah, dude, that was awesome.
Yeah. Well, to be completely honest, like, I don't know what I would be like right now if it weren't for Philip just barging into my house, essentially, and forcing me to go to his house. Like, because I was really withdrawn, and I was almost like, no, I'm not gonna go. But then I was like, why not? You know, this is the first time someone's ever come over in this town. Like, the first time someone's wanted to come over. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'll humor you with this. And, you know, Mike, because I don't know if, I think I mentioned a couple times, my dad's like a gangbanger. Like, he's like in and out of prison constantly. My mom is like hopelessly addicted to, like, opiates for a long period of my childhood. And I was just constantly getting pushed around between, like, grandparents and aunts and uncles and stuff. And I don't know what I would be like because Philip, his parents were very straight laced. Like, they put him in the Boy Scouts. His dad was like a scout leader in the Boy Scouts. So I ended up joining the Boy Scouts. I ended up, like, cleaning, like, becoming, I'd say clean up, but I never, like, did drugs or anything at that point. I was still, like, a kid. But I don't know what I would have turned into. Like, they essentially saved my life. I was basically like their son that they never had. Like I was always there.
Yeah, I was planning on kind of circling back and asking this question at the end, but I think it's fine to dive into it now. It makes sense. Yeah, like go into as much detail as you want. Don't feel like you need to kind of explain everything. But from the sounds of it, it sounds like the early half of your life could have been better, for lack of a better term, in terms of your environment and who you were around and stuff like that. And throughout each quarter and throughout a lot of the games that you had mentioned and a lot of the experiences that you have mentioned, you always kind of have been saying things like, I was looking for someone to play with. I was looking for a way to get away from this situation, like either one of those two things, whether it was going to the library or like hoping to find someone to play like Turok with or Tony Hawk with or something like that, like leaving to go to the Playland at McDonald's and various different things like that. So you kind of already answered it already, but it's pretty safe to say that it seems like video games had been a significant positive impact on not just your life, but like your life's whole trajectory, because like a lot of people are a product of their environment, and if your environment didn't drastically change with Rock Band and onward, then yeah, it's hard to say like what you would become, like what the product would become if there wasn't something like that had happened.
Yeah, and I definitely let him know every now and then when I'm feeling sentimental. I'm like,
Christmas time.
Yeah.
You better get his mom like a pretty sweet Christmas present.
Oh yeah, I loved his parents so much. But that whole experience definitely, like, because at that point games were very casual to me. I played them, and I had experiences, but it was like I wasn't a gamer, I would consider myself. But whenever I met Philip in like Xbox Live playing Halo with them, like he introduced me to a bunch of people at our school. We would have like custom matches and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm going headfirst into this. Like, this is the thing that I'm passionate about. Like, maybe the first time in my life, I'm like, I'm going to be. Which you did mention at the very beginning. I'm the guy with 500,000 gamer score. Throughout high school, I was the guy with the gamer score. Like, everyone was always asking me how. They're like, you break 100,000 yet? No, not yet. I'm trying. You know what I mean? I was going to GameStop and buying terrible games just to get gamer score. I was addicted to just playing video games at that point.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was going to lead into next was achievements, because that's something that obviously came in this generation. PlayStation did get trophies later on, but which arguably are better, like in terms of like how they work. But achievements came first. And I also was the gamer score guy in my high school, although I definitely fell off in the like kind of like from the middle to the end of 360. I kind of went on this like World of Warcraft, PC gaming, League of Legends bender that really tanked my gamer score pretty hard. But yeah, I'm wondering like when did you start realizing that kind of like dopamine rush of getting an achievement, or like that carrot on the stick of being the person with the highest gamer score? Like, when did that really sink its teeth into? Was there a specific game where you noticed that you're starting to get ahead of people?
The main thing that playing Gears of War and Lost Planet, and Halo 3, my first 3 games, getting those achievements that early on, it was interesting and fun, and I definitely knew that I liked it. I went out of my way. I would look at the achievements and try to go out of my way to do stuff. I would play on harder difficulties in Gears of War, for instance, even though the first one was pretty brutal. But I think it was Rock Band and Guitar Hero 2 where my passions collided, where I was becoming more entranced by music, and then I suddenly had this passion for video games, and then there was all of a sudden this meta game that could become quickly competitive. And Rock Band had like a huge story mode, like not a huge story mode, but there was a lot of gigs in the story mode, and you would get an achievement for each city when you beat each story. And that's probably when it happened, because I was always obsessed with getting a high score in Guitar Hero, and now I can get a high score in being a gamer. So I was like, it was unhealthy almost, probably, but
yeah, I wonder if they knew like how big of an impact this would be on everybody when achievements came out. Cause
I mean, there's a lot, right? There's a lot of people now that just don't care. But I feel like the majority of people, especially in the first half of the 360 generation, really cared. Like in my school, I was up against like basically a cheater, like Keith, the first person I ever interviewed on Insert Coin. He worked at Blockbuster, so he got free rentals. He could just rack it up. So I had to play the hard games and get the hard achievements to keep up with him playing the easy games that he got from Blockbuster. But it was a really fun competition that we still kind of like joke about to this day. I won't play a game on Xbox without first looking at the achievement list. And there's games that I don't play because it has bad achievement lists. Like I haven't played Prey yet because Prey has a horrible achievement list that requires you to beat the game several times in different ways and requires you to play the game without doing like things that are fun to get like those type of achievements suck. So I haven't played Prey because of the achievements, which is like insane. Like I recognize I have a problem and that I'm a degenerate, but like
That's
it
like
is what it is.
Moriarty.
Yeah. So like I'm at least I can admit I have a problem, but it's just awesome how like that was such a big thing, even though it has nothing to do with gaming, like nothing to do with playing a game.
Yeah, I definitely every single time before I boot up a game, I check the achievement list. I've grown out of the of abstaining from games because there's a couple games that I would have never played, and I'm very glad I did. But like I will definitely look at achievement lists and go, okay, are there collectible achievements? How many are there? I use that website True Achievements. I'm sure you know it now.
Yeah, I go on there every day
at this point. Yeah, I love it. I'm a pro member and everything. But
damn,
I got a story for the next segment for True Achievements actually. Real quick, I remember Fallout 3 was very important because Philip and Steven both bullied me into playing Oblivion. I didn't want to play Oblivion because I was scarred from Morrowind because Morrowind was very hard for my child brain. And of course, I had no one around me to explain anything. So my dad would watch me and be like, "I have no idea why you're not hitting him, son. It looks like you're hitting him." Like, so I got Oblivion, fell in love with it, played the living crap out of it. My gamer tag was Austin9993, and I made it to where when I was playing Oblivion, I would beat the last Dark Brotherhood mission, and my gamer score would be 9993. And I was like, I should just make a new profile now and just leave this like this. I never did, but yeah. So I really fell in love with Bethesda games. They could do no wrong at this point. Fallout 3 comes out. Philip has a pretty awesome big room, and he has a huge dresser with 2 TVs on it. Steven brings his own TV. We come back home from the midnight. We come back. I said home to Philip's house from the midnight release, and we all had our Xboxes hooked up to these TVs. We all put the games in at the same time and go through the vault all at the same time. And me and Steven leave at the same time. Philip leaves early because he's a little piece of shit, but he leaves like 25 seconds early because we were waiting on me. I think actually, I was probably dragging ass, but. We all basically walked out at the same time. The light blinds us, and then we see the wasteland, and we're just like, this is going to be our lives for a long time, just playing this game.
That's awesome. I had that exact experience with Oblivion. It wasn't in person. Me and my friend were in the party chat, like back when party chat was private chat, and it was just 2 people max.
Oh man, you just brought back memories.
Yeah, we played Oblivion, not the whole game, but at least like the first few hours. Like we're like, okay, 3, 2, 1, go, and then yeah, that was great. I finished Fallout 3 honestly like last year or so. I never liked it when it first came out. I missed the lush, colorful Oblivion, and I wasn't a huge fan of the gray and green. Everything's gray Fallout. But yeah, I do think it's a great game. After having gone through it now, I think it's a fantastic game.
Yeah, I wasn't too... I never really got too hung up on like graphics and stuff, especially because... Well, I lost my train of thought. I was thinking of a specific game, and I can't remember what it's called now, but I would play a lot of arcade games and stuff, and indie games and stuff, and a lot of people around me were like, it's partially why my gamer score got so high, is because I was playing all different kind. I really got obsessed. Like, so it basically knocked the barrier off of any game that I considered something that would be fun. And let's save that for the True Achievements.
Okay. Was there anything else you want to talk about in Q3 before we move on?
I did get a PS3. We neglected that one. I mean, I played Uncharted. I played everything except for like Metal Gear Solid 5 or 4, and I don't know, Heavenly Sword. What else was an exclusive? I played all the main exclusives. I played Resistance, Killzone, Uncharted, obviously, amazing
Lair.
game. Lair. Yes. Don't you control the dragon with your controller or something?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Six Axis, bro.
I never played that one, but I did get Heavy Rain, and I thought my copy was broken because there's a moment in there where you have to shake the controller to brush your teeth, and I had a cheap generic GameStop controller that did not have 6-axis in it, so I didn't know what the hell it was telling me to do. And none of my friends had a PS3 at the time, so I'm just like, everyone was playing on the 360, so I'm just like, GameStop guy, this shit's broken. And I got another one, brought it back home, couldn't get it to work again, went back to GameStop. This is like a 2-week long ordeal because I don't get to go to GameStop. I'm still a baby. And so it's like, I don't understand what this means. It's like, I'm in the bathroom and he explains to me I need a new controller. So then like 2 weeks later after that, I have to save up enough money to get a controller just to play this game Heavy Rain. And at that point, I was so pent up that I actually liked it a lot. I thought I was going to hate it. I thought the whole game was going to be bad.
So you literally couldn't progress if you didn't have it. I never used it. I always had a 6-axis, but I bought my PlayStation 3 used like during the Xbox One, PS4 era. So you could not progress in that game unless you had a 6-axis.
You couldn't.
Does it warn you about that on the box or anything?
I think it does. I don't think I knew what that meant. I don't think I knew what 6-axis even meant though. So
yeah, it's not very clear, I guess.
I think that's it though.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, we're going to move on to the final quarter of your life, quarter number 4. But before we do, we're going to put one more coin into that arcade time machine and take a quick look at what gaming was like in that era. I forgot to say it, but it's 2015 to present day. So here we go.
Clear. This is my favorite part. Exciting.
Eyes up, Guardian. It worked. You're alive. You're gonna see a lot of things you won't understand.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Game Awards.
Fuck the Oscars, you know? Fuck the Oscars!
And the winner for Game of the Year 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 is... Xbox Live.
Evil is evil. Lesser, greater, middling, makes no difference.
Evil that hell can conjure. All the wickedness that mankind can produce. We will send unto them only you.
Don't worry, loves. Cavalry's here.
How you share your games on PS4.
Boy.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Xbox One.
TV and movies? TV. Xbox. Watch TV. Sports. Sports.
Sport television.
Call of Duty. Call of Duty. Call of Duty. Call of Duty.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Today, I'm pleased to announce Xbox One backward compatibility. Project Scorpio will be the next addition to the Xbox One family.
Xbox Game Pass, a way to give gamers the ultimate freedom to play.
ZeniMax has an amazing track record of building great games. Next holiday, Xbox Series X will lead us into the future of console gaming.
I think you are now ready to hear what happened 100 years ago.
2015 to present day. A king falls and a new one rises as PlayStation takes over after the 360's reign comes to an end, but desperate times call for desperate measures as Xbox looks to level the playing field with Xbox Game Pass, all while Nintendo switches things up once again. Nave, what consoles did you game on during this era? What were your favorite, and do you remember how you got them?
At this point, I was a fully functioning adult, and so I was buying my own stuff. The Xbox One was coming out. It had the whole digital thing going on. And I must say, I was a little excited about it. Like, the whole always online thing at this point wasn't such a big deal for me. And the digital trade-ins thing, I think you mentioned in the last episode of Insert Coin, I was like, I have a bunch of digital games already. Like, it would be awesome to just cash in all of these games just for store credit and buy a $60 game, like a bunch of these indie games that I bought for Gamerscore.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that backfired, and in all honesty, I didn't understand the scope of what was happening. So there was a lot of like goofy shenanigans in the DRM and everything, but yeah, it definitely incensed me, and it made me want to buy a play. The whole fiasco itself and how it was settled. The whole Don Matrix saying, "We have an offline console. It's called the Xbox 360." I was like, I don't know. I need some time alone to think. And eventually, I decided I'm going to get a PlayStation 4. Until Rock Band 4 was announced, and they said that they would attempt to bring all the DLC forward to the next generation, only on the same family of consoles. So it sealed my fate. I had to get an Xbox One because at that point I think I had like 600 download content songs, and I was not going to rebuy them on the PlayStation. That's just not happening.
Nice. That's kind of like, I never really wavered. I was just like, I was like a fanboy, to be honest. So like, I was buying into the online stuff, even though there was clearly flaws with it. But when I did get a PS4, I contemplated, like, is it possible to completely kind of flip and switch over? Like, I even like put an ad on like Craigslist, or like we call it Kijiji here, that was saying like, here's my list of Xbox One games. Is there anyone out here that has a closely similar list to PS4 that just wants to do a straight library swap? I had no faith that would happen, but if like a miracle happened and someone happened to have like a mostly the same library, like there was like a brief window where I might have pulled the trigger and been like super regretted it. But yeah, it was dark times, man.
Yeah, the Xbox One, I ended up not buying it until probably about 3 months before Rock Band 4 released, because even at this point I was used to not having things at the beginning of the generation, so I was like, whatever, what's another console cycle? And whenever I got the Xbox One, it was phenomenal. Like, I absolutely love the console, and again, I was already pretty ingratiated into the ecosystem with digital games. One of the biggest takeaways I had from the original DRM of the Xbox One was that you would be able to download games from discs, and then you could play the game without the disc in. And I was like, that's amazing, because on the 360 you can download games onto your hard drive to increase load time or to decrease load times, but you had to keep the disc in the Xbox. So it's like, I don't know what the point is. The only reason why I would want to download it onto the hard drive is so that I can not have the disc in the system. I don't know, so I could just turn it on, kind of how Xbox One and Xbox Series is, PS4 as well, PS5, how they work. Well, this whole thing moved forward, and it's still the same. You have to put even on the Series X, you have to put a disc in to download the game. Then you have to have the disc in, even though the game is downloaded onto the hard drive. At that point, I had basically switched to all digital because I saw that was the future. I was like, no more discs, I'm done. And also at this point, since I was the man with the gamer score, clearly I had a bunch of games, yeah. So, and on the 360, you just throw the disc in, and it's loaded up. Yeah, I see all those games. I was gonna talk about that before we started recording, but we wasted like 30 minutes at the beginning before not even recording.
I couldn't even tell you what we talked about.
I can't either. We were just chilling, and then it was 30 minutes later. But I had like 400 or 500 360 games, no shit. Like multiple stacks up to my head. Like I used to have a picture of just multiple stacks of games all the way up to my head of 360 games. And I had, since I knew that the Xbox One, you would have to download the games anyway when you put the disc in, I was like, okay, I'm done with it. I'm just going to start buying. I'm going to adapt to the future now. And because I did that, I have like 1,000 games on my Xbox One or Xbox Series X now, but since for the most part they're backwards compatible. I'm so deeply ingratiated into the Xbox ecosystem now that I don't even think that I would ever be able to switch unless something dramatic happened. Well, which I don't even like to even play with that idea because I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, it's a lot like the iPod. Like a lot of people like jumped obviously onto iPod because it was a like revolutionary piece of tech when it came out, and then they spent a lot of money on iTunes, which they probably did even before iPod, and they had these iTunes music libraries that they paid for, and then when other competitors tried to release like the Zune or Creative MP3 player or whatever MP3 players, they just had these customers tied down to these iTunes libraries that they couldn't transfer, and they were already so invested in it that they couldn't move. That's why I don't think that it's going to be easy for Xbox to kind of poach a ton of players from PlayStation, because last gen, it was easier when everybody had discs and they couldn't play them anyway because they weren't backwards compatible. But now these people have like 7 years of PS Plus games or digital games they may have bought, or even discs that still work and stuff like that on PS4, that like the same situation that you're in. They're not going to want to rebuy all those games for the most part. So it's an uphill battle to get anyone to move now because these libraries are kind of set in stone.
It's really interesting because I don't know. I guess I haven't thought about it too hard, but my initial knee-jerk reaction is I think it would be impossible for someone in the Xbox ecosystem to move to PlayStation as it is currently, but PlayStation users probably could move to Xbox because of the value you get from Game Pass at this moment. I'm not sure in the future how long Game Pass is going to be as awesome as it is. I assume I assume we're at peak Game Pass. I pretty much always assume we're at peak anything, just so that my expectations are tempered. But I think we really are at peak Game Pass. And besides the day one releases, I'm not sure how much awesome third-party support we're going to get as more and more Xbox studios release games. And as that catalog gets larger, it's going to probably start cannibalizing into the third-party stuff. That's just me being an armchair Phil Spencer, though. And especially with the Xbox Series S, I don't know if you saw the Japanese sales. They're still not good, Xbox in Japan, but there's like in the triple digits of Xbox Series X, and it's in the thousands in Xbox Series S now. And I'm like, it makes sense because that's the whole point, right? In Japan, they really like value their space, and that thing is so tiny. It's magic what they did with that Series S.
Yeah. No,
I'm pretty sure if I ever see one in the wild, I'm just going to snap by it, probably, just because of the novelty of it.
Yeah, I'm on the all access plan with my Series X. Like I pay the monthly combo with Game Pass or whatever. And once that runs up, I'm going to re-up again on a Series S just to have it in a different room or whatnot. But in terms of Japan, they're on pace to this year beat the Xbox One install base in Japan with the Xbox Series already within 1 year. And it took 7 years to get to that point with Xbox One. So they're clearly doing something right over there in Japan. But they really like the bar was pretty low, to be honest.
Yeah.
So but that's still good for them. And you make a good point about Game Pass making that transition a lot easier, because you just have this instant library of awesome games. But to your point about you think that we're at peak Game Pass, we don't need to get into a huge tangent about Game Pass, but I think it'll be a surprise. I don't think we are, because most of the studios that Xbox has acquired have not been firing at all yet. None of those like releases have really come to fruition yet. That starts next year, and they're not done acquiring studios. So even if third party deals don't really fall through or come through in terms of day one third party deals for launches, you're going to see more acquisitions of third-party games or publishers or developers become first-party. So I think that the future is bright for Game Pass.
Yeah, well, I didn't mean like the quality was going to go down. My whole mentality was non-Microsoft games. I was assuming that as the first party is releasing games, there's less of a need to buy third-party day one rights like Outriders and stuff like that. There's less of an incentive to do that because you don't need as many games to be flashing, while you have Halo Infinite is on there day one, and then later on it's going to be I can't think of any other game besides Avowed right now, and that's not coming out pretty anytime soon. But it's like, you know, you get all these amazing like first party games coming day one. You don't have to pay Square Enix for Avengers or whatever the hell is coming out next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm not sure though.
That's true. But also a counterpoint is like this time last year, Bethesda was third party. Now it's first party.
Yeah, true.
So like,
did you hear that they just put on PS Now Fallout 76, I think. Isn't that strange?
Yeah, get people in. If they buy, what is it called? Atoms or whatever
Atoms,
the currency is. Yeah. They just goes right to Bill Gates.
I don't even remember what started this conversation.
We were talking about you were kind of disenfranchised with Xbox, but they had you handcuffed to this epic library of games that you had. So,
yeah,
and the Rock Band DLC.
I had absolute faith. I absolutely stopped pre-ordering games in the 360 gen. I kind of learned my lesson. I worked at GameStop for about a year, and that kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things. But that's not in this area. It's not even that important either. I should have brought it up when you said your who is it? The second episode of Insert Coin, the first one you had a guest, your friend
Keith, yeah.
Keith. He worked at Blockbuster and got free rentals. And
Yeah.
GameStop, they wanted us to know what we were talking about. So for that whole year, it was more like 9 months that I worked there. I was able to play games early. Like they would get the game like 4 or 5 days early, sometimes even like a week or a week and a half early. And they would let us take it home, and they would just reseal it as new. It's kind of scummy, but I played Bioshock 2 early. I played what else came out around that time? I can't remember. I was just so pumped to play Bioshock 2. I remember that vividly. Coming home, playing Bioshock 2, having friends over, going, "Holy shit, this is so cool! You have Bioshock 2 already." You know, I felt like an important person.
I bet they don't do that anymore with like Twitch culture, YouTube culture. There's so many strict embargoes now, but yeah. But anyway, so you had an Xbox One, you had a PS4. Is there any titles that really stand out? Any memorable experiences with those games in that era?
The funny thing is all the other coins I had like 9 or 10 bullet points. I literally have 3 here because at this point gaming has become so homogenized with my whole life that I don't know how to separate them anymore. But and I've played I played so many games, and it's so close to current day that it's hard to imagine if the game will be memorable in 10 years. There are a few though, and I didn't get a PS4 on launch though. That's an interesting story, I guess I could tell. So remember how I said that I had like 300 360 games? I also had the new 360 model, and probably about 5 or 6 months after I got the Xbox One, GameStop had a trade-in program that was like, if you trade in your Xbox, you get double the credit towards a PS4. You know what I mean? If it was the new like gig hard drive version, the exact version I had.
Yeah, the E model.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'm only playing this for Rock Band 3 because Rock Band 4 still at that point it barely had any DLC actually. The Rock Band 4 launch was a disaster, and I was very heartbroken. Oh, that's where I was going before. I barely pre-ordered games. I pre-ordered Rock Band 4 and it was a disaster. So of course, like the first game I pre-ordered in like years would hurt me. But I sold my 360 and I sold all of my games. And I ended up getting a PS4 with like 5 different games. I got like Batman, I got Order 1886, I got Killzone, I got I think I got Call of Duty, that year's Call of Duty, and I got something else, I can't remember. It's not that important. I got the PS4 and all of those games, pretty expensive games, for $40. That's like, and so I was like, which of course I also traded in like 300 games. So I mean, that's actually not a great deal, but
no, not at all.
But I had moved at that point. All of these games I had when I was at my hometown eventually moved to where I live currently, like the city I live, I mean. And it was a tiny little room. So these games were not displayed on a shelf like they were before. They're literally like sitting in boxes underneath my bed. And I don't use them anymore. So at that point I didn't have like a collector mentality. I wasn't collecting them on purpose, I guess. Like for the purposes of having a bunch. Damn, my Discord is blowing up and it's distracting me. Sorry if that gets picked up in the mic. But yeah, so I didn't have too much emotional attachment, and I had Naughty Bear and Naughty Bear 2, and I had Brink. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like I didn't sell my Final Fantasy 7. You know what I mean? I still have Final Fantasy 7 and 8 and all of that, but yeah, I got my game or I got my PS4 for like $40, which was sweet. I used to have a receipt on my wall, and it literally went from my ceiling, and then like a scroll, like an Elder Scroll, just rolled down into my floor, and I had to vacuum around it every time I would get attacked, and I'd tack it up to my wall so I didn't actually suck it up. But yeah, and I feel bad for the GameStop employee that had to count all those games. That was probably a really bad day for them. I went in like first thing in the morning just so that there would be no one there. So I was like, ugh.
Do you have them on like a garbage bag?
I had 3 boxes, 3 huge boxes, and my mom helped me take them in there. So I definitely looked like a freaking dork for sure. Because I was just wanting a PlayStation. What was I wanting to talk about here?
True achievements.
Oh, True Achievements, baby. This is a good website. If you're listening to this, you obviously like Xbox. So True Achievements, you should already be signed up. It's an awesome website. There's a whole bunch of guides, and I used to write a ton of guides for, well, not a ton, a few. I wrote a few walkthroughs and stuff. And like I said in the last quarter, I played a lot of indie games, kind of I was going to say arcade games, but arcade didn't exist on the Xbox One, did it? That was only a 360 thing. What used to, like Limbo and stuff, I would play that on the Xbox One as well. And even on the Xbox One, they increased the achievement limit for games like that to 1,000 rather than just 200, so it was even better.
Yep.
A few of these games that I played didn't have really good achievement guides. Like you'd go on YouTube and you would look for, I don't know, collectible guides, and there wouldn't be one. And you go on True Achievements and there would be no walkthrough. And I was like, why don't I write some of these? And so I already had a YouTube channel, like during like the Let's Play boom with PewDiePie and stuff. I tried to do that because I thought it looked fun. It's actually not fun. It's editing is very unfun for the listeners that don't edit at all. I actually hate it a whole bunch. And here I am podcasting and editing my own podcast. But I ended up writing walkthroughs. And if you go on True Achievements, there's an article that they wrote for their 10-year anniversary for it was just a big statistic dump, like something that really tickles my brain. I love statistics and graphs and charts and stuff. And someone sent me a message on True Achievements, and they were like, hey, congrats on being on the article. And I'm like, what article? I didn't know that it even happened. So when I found the article, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there is a thing for the most upvoted walkthroughs for a particular game, and I was number 4 for the whole decade. And it was such an interesting feeling, like one of those feelings where you're like, I didn't even know it was successful. Like, I didn't know people liked it. I just made it and moved on. It was for a game called Abzu. Did you ever play that game?
Yeah, that's like it's not a walking simulator. It's like a scuba simulator.
Yeah, you're just swimming and with like fish and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the thing that reminded me last quarter when you were talking about it is you don't want to watch a YouTube video because when you look down at the screen, you don't want to get spoiled, right? Abzu's not a good example because actually you do have to look at the video quite often in that one. But because you're just in a 3D environment, like 360 degree motion everywhere, so it's hard to describe where to go without just going, go left at the seaweed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my whole idea behind the walkthroughs was, it's like I knew how to edit videos, right? And I wanted to try something new on YouTube anyways, so I would record a playthrough, basically a speed run. Then after that, I would record commentary over the video, like as I'm watching myself play it. And then with that commentary, I would write the walkthrough using my audio only, kind of like a podcast a little bit. I would write the entirety of the walkthrough. Like sometimes it's like 10,000, 15,000 words for some of these games. And I would do all of that simultaneously for one little game. And every single one of those walkthroughs, besides maybe one, which was probably my last one, which I put the least amount of effort in, every single one of those, they were getting like a couple thousand views, and that was ridiculous for me. Like, I had no idea why I was even getting the traffic. You know what I mean? It was a really cool time in my life where I was like, oh, I can make things and people like it. This is a possibility. And I was also playing guitar and like trying to figure stuff out. Everything was very secular. Like, I got gamer score, but no one cares about my gamer score, right? Like, you might get an odd how the hell did you get that much, you know what I mean, like message or something, but no one really cares that much. And it's like I have a guitar, but no one's like listening to what I'm doing. And so this really this was the seed, to make a call back to that. This was the seed that kind of grew into me wanting to be something other than just my own person. Like, when Philip approached me about the podcast, it was like immediately a yes. I never really listened to podcasts too much before, besides Sacred Symbols and Joe Rogan occasionally when he had someone interesting on. But I wasn't really a podcast listener, and so I started listening to more and more, especially after we started. And podcasts are really awesome. Like, there's such a variety. I used to think they were like one thing and that was it. And there's such a variety of awesome podcasts like this. You were one of the first people that I interacted with on Twitter whenever we made our account, and I think I told you that already. And it was so interesting listening to your first. Well, was Insert Coin out then?
I don't think so. It might have been just been starting. I think I like replied to like something that like, it might have been, I think it was like a Colin Moriarty or Sacred Symbols Twitter account. I think I just replied to something, and then I think you saw it, I guess, and reached out. I can't remember. I mean, we could probably scroll up in our DM history, but it was probably right around that time. I think it probably actually was probably right around the beginning of that. Yeah.
Because I definitely remember listening to, because you put out the solo episode and that second episode pretty close together, right?
Yeah, it was like, yeah, I wanted to do one where it was just me so that I could show it to Keith so he would know what's happening. So I recorded that, showed it to him, and then he basically like stepped in to record like within a day or two of that. So yeah, they were released really close together.
Okay, yeah, so it was around that time, because I remember the second one with Keith coming out, I think, and there was already another one. So I listened to that first one first, because I don't know how podcasts work at that point. I didn't know if you're supposed to start at the beginning or not. But
yeah, June 25th, 2021.
That's crazy.
That's when you DM me, man.
Yeah, that's really when, because before the Twitter account was, because I think we started in May, we were just dumping our episode, and I was like, I just dump and bye-bye. But I think it was seeing you post on there and seeing a couple other podcasts like just like randomly like posting stuff out, just like that were not related to the podcast. Our Twitter account is very fast and loose. It is literally just my personal Twitter account at this point. It might as well be.
So is mine, to be honest. And yeah, that's, I think, what we talked about. I think that you had said something along the lines of that you have a Twitter account, but it was basically just a kind of almost a bot that just tweets new episodes live. And then you were saying it was like strange to see a podcast Twitter account like just having random conversations and threads and whatever. And then I told you to do that too, because then people can find you.
Yeah. That's interesting too, because like the way that I met Philip and it turned me on to video games. If I hadn't met you in that way and like had that conversation with you, that completely changed the trajectory of the podcast. And at this point, the podcast is completely different, because we've met the 1H1D guys, we met the Quit the Build guys. I don't think we'll be able to get them on because they're pretty big, it feels like, but we definitely ran into a bunch of people that you interacted with and just kind of followed them silently and then interacted with them enough until they were like, okay, I think this guy's not like a troll account. Maybe we should like the things he posts. And I was like, the little community in the little Twitter community that I'm in still, it's a very positive and uplifting place. And there's like a lot of dumb inside jokes that I'm starting to get in on now. I'm like, all right, well, is actually really fun, this whole podcasting thing. I didn't think that this is what it would be like. I thought it would be a lot more work. If I feel like I'm not doing that much work. The only time I feel like I'm doing work is I'm editing the damn thing.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of like what I was sort of seeking in a way. Like I have, obviously I have friends, like everybody for the most part has friends. But they're kind of like, in terms of gaming with them, that's kind of been growing apart at a rapid pace over the last like decade or so. It's to the point where like I'm still like neck deep into the industry, like constantly looking for news, and I want to talk about that stuff, like new things in video games with people, and they're just like really not interested anymore because like they kind of have games that they play and then they just play it like in the evenings to like kick back or whatever. They're not really into the industry, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to. So I thought part of the reason why I started the podcast in general was to meet people that, I'm assuming if you have a gaming podcast, you probably care about video game news. There's someone to talk to. And then like you said, you end up like either joining or forming these little side communities with like these people. Like most of the people that I talk to about video games now are like in Michigan, in Idaho, in like Oklahoma or like New York or wherever. And I'm in like Canada. Like I would never have met these people outside of podcasting. And they're people I talk to like pretty much every day. So it's crazy.
I think that on your episode, because you were on a very early episode, I feel like, and it was like maybe like 9 or 10 or something like that.
On
and
your
I
show?
feel like, I think so.
Yeah.
But you were like I think the third Canadian in a row, and I was just like, I haven't spoken to this many Canadians. like it feels so strange. Like everyone just seems to be from Canada randomly, and I think we didn't. Oh no, it wasn't you. It was another. It was I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. His name was Robert, but he was from Canada, and we didn't know, so he kept saying Canadian terms, and we just kind of let it slide. And then after about like 30 minutes, he was like, "So I was in academy or something like that." He was like, "So you guys know what like a what do you say? A bonus class or something like that? I don't remember." But he was explaining it, and I'm like, "Are you not from America?" And it's just we had this like spiel about Canada again. It's like it's so interesting. I've learned so much from Canada from my gaming podcast.
What are some Canadian terms that what's a Canadian term to you? I'm curious.
Well, so I wish I could just listen to that part because he said like academy, maybe he was talking about college,
University,
yeah. So he was saying that academy. What the hell am I talking about?
You're talking about Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, probably. Oh, there's a good story about that. It's over. Shit.
Well, university is not a Canadian term, by the way. There's universities in America. Like there's a University of Oklahoma. That's like the whole point of Oklahoma.
Oklahoma University and Oklahoma State University. But it's like we call it college. God, I wish I could remember anything he said at this moment. I'm like on the spot. You're like, what's a Canadian? Oh God, maybe I should have thought about that before I said it. Yeah.
I get it. It's fine.
So what were we talking about before we even talked about
Christ,
this?
Your memory is great. We were talking about how like your success with writing guides and getting a following through true achievements in your YouTube channel and your Let's Plays and your walkthroughs and stuff like that. I'm guessing that you had stopped doing that for a while because you had mentioned that the last guide you had written was a while ago, and then Philip coming to you with this podcast idea kind of like relit that flame and gave you like an outlet to be able to kind of reach out and talk to different people and meet new people and interact with people outside of your like local kind of scene or bubble. And then you were talking about how that led to you meeting other podcasters on Twitter and then kind of forming these new social groups, which is kind of a contrast to how your first local social group started through deciding to like get Rock Band and your passion for video games. It's helped you in two different ways.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I had a following on YouTube, but I was definitely, there were people watching my videos. I thought that was good enough. I still get comments on videos sometimes that are like, "Are you gonna make any more walkthroughs?" And I just feel bad. I'm just like, I'm sorry. I might come back to it, but I burned my candle at both ends when I was doing that. Like I think I described my method. My method takes a long time. What I was
Yeah.
doing, and I was burning myself out so fast. It was probably like the 7th or 8th video guide that I did, and I was like, I scrapped it. I was like, I can't do this. I am not having fun. Like I have turned this into my second job and I'm not getting paid for it. Like this is it was fun before because I liked the games, but now I'm doing it for games that I'm just like, well, this doesn't have a walkthrough, so I guess I'll do it. But I don't like the game. Like there's like some kind of iPhone port of like this game called Toby in the Secret Mine. It's like a Limbo ripoff. And I'm like, this game made me miserable playing it like 5 or 6 times to get like the speed run basically down so that the video is as short as possible because each one's like an hour and a half long at least because
Yeah.
I'm playing the whole game in one sitting.
Yeah, it's
But,
crazy how people like Maka can just throw up guides. Like I know he probably gets some early copies, maybe that's why they're so timely. But just the fact that he can do them in general so fast is mind blowing.
And man, when one of my videos got a comment from Maka, he just said thanks, and I was just like, I've been noticed by this guy. Holy shit. Yeah, because he was the template for sure. The only thing was that I was like, okay, so he has a lot of like dead air, which is fine for him. What I was like, I kind of want to fill that dead air with being as descriptive as humanly possible because, like you said, I think I was trying to say this before and I went off on a tangent and never went back. But you were saying you don't want to look at videos because it might get spoiled, right? Well, I was constantly talking so that you didn't have to look at the videos. So that was one of the most popular comments I got, or one of the most, what's the word? I got that comment multiple times that people would appreciate that they didn't have to watch the video. Like they could literally just listen to me talk and then progress with the game. Like I wouldn't like speed forward or anything. I would literally just play through the long and boring parts and let the loading screens play out so I can describe what's coming up and stuff like that. Like I wouldn't be like, and then your main character loses his daughter, and like I would just be like, further ahead, there's going to be a collectible. You don't have to worry about it for about 10 minutes, but just so you know.
Yeah.
You know, I just talk about stuff.
That's pretty cool. The last question I have for quarter number 4 is I'm wondering how Game Pass has affected your achievement addiction.
Game Pass has definitely changed the way I look at video games for sure. I see as far as achievements go, to answer your question before I go off on a tangent again, I almost did. As far as achievements go, I've definitely fallen off of like hardcore hunting for achievements. He says as he was just before you called me, I was grinding one of the last achievements in Yakuza 6. So if a game is really good, I will try and get all the achievements. But as far as Game Pass is concerned, it's like opened up the doors for even more indie games, but it's also saved me tons of money. Like I have so many games that I'm in the camp that I don't benefit from Game Pass nearly as much as like the regular gamer. Like the regular layman that's playing on the Xbox gets so much value from Game Pass, whereas I probably own like 40% of all of the games that are there currently. And since I bought them, they're obviously the ones I want to play. So, but it also opens the door to games like Death's Door, which I'm sure you've played Death's Door, have you?
I bought it. I don't know if it's on Game Pass. I can't remember, but I did buy it. I haven't got a chance to really dig into it though.
It's not on Game Pass. That was the reason why I bought it. I just bought it immediately because I was like, this game looks cool, and the music sounds pretty, and it's only $15. And also, like, I've played like 25 games that I probably would have bought this year, but they were on Game Pass. Like Back 4 Blood's on Game Pass right now. Totally would have bought that game. You know what I mean? And if it leaves Game Pass and I'm still playing it, I'll just buy the game. Like, it's no big deal. I hear this argument all the time on Twitter that it's like Xbox gamers don't buy games because it's on Game Pass. And I'm like, sure, that affects some people, but like there are definitely people like me. I'm like the whale on the mobile game, you know? Like that's spending tons of money for no reason. I'm like buying games left and right, like even if I'm never going to play them. Like I own all of the Yakuza games, even though when they got announced for Game Pass day one, when they got it released on Xbox, I just bought them anyway because I was like, I'm going to double dip because I love this franchise so much. I know that I want these games even when they leave inevitably. Like, there are people like me that are just shelling out the money for these games, and it seems like a foolish argument, especially when they come from the side of, oh, you Xbox gamers aren't supporting the devs because they're not playing the games, but these developers got paid. You know what I mean? Like Microsoft didn't extort them they didn't extort Square Enix to get Avengers. Avengers was just doing very bad. and they needed some extra money, and Outriders definitely did pretty sweet on the service, even though who was it? What was the company that made the game?
People Can Fly.
People Can Fly. Even though they didn't get their, what was it? Their bonus money or something like that.
Yeah, they didn't get paid their profit sharing part of it. I think the deal was that if the game met a certain threshold in revenue, basically like the cost of the game plus the marketing cost of the game, that once the revenue exceeds that, then they'll start getting like some dividends from it. And they had not gotten anything yet. So they never really said as much. I think what they alluded to was that they were not sure why, because they know that the game sold enough to be profitable because they know how much the game cost to make, but they don't know how much the game cost to market. That's something that Square Enix controls.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's tough to speculate what happened. I think what's more likely is that Square Enix is either paid a lot of money to market the game or is like doing some weird accounting to maybe like not count the money, the huge bag of money they've got from Microsoft as game sales. So maybe that's not going against like the targets. Maybe they're calculating it differently. Either way, it's not a Microsoft problem or a Game Pass problem. It's a Square Enix problem. And regardless of if the game was on Game Pass or not, that would remain a Square Enix problem, because if a game's not on Game Pass and you pay for it full price, 100% of that money goes to the publisher, not the developer. And then the publisher, based on whatever agreement they have with the developer, which is usually heavily favoring the publisher. That's just how the industry works. You're not really supporting the developer. So when you go and pay full price for Outriders on PS5, like, you're not giving the people that made that game money. You're giving the people that paid for the game to be made money. So, like you said,
that definitely seems like it's not Xbox's problem at all. In fact, it's like Outriders. You don't even know, because it's impossible to know if that game would have even been good. Not good, but if the game would have done well without Game Pass, because it released day and date, and it had so much like goodwill just from all of the Xbox players playing this game for free. Because I mean, I feel like I definitely played it day one. And I feel like that game was more fun because I didn't pay for it. Like, if I dropped $60, I would not have bought it originally anyways. You know what I mean? There's no way I was paying for that game for $60, because I've seen too many of these games come and go, like a la Anthem and stuff like that. It's like I'll wait and see. And if it becomes a Rainbow Six Siege or something like huge, then maybe I'll jump in.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that it was free, not free, but on Game Pass, I was even able to like convince a bunch of friends to play with me. I had like a much better time.
Yeah, publishers and developers make a ton of money when their games go on Game Pass. Like, you have to think about it. Like, all of these companies that are making the decisions to put their game on Game Pass, these are multi-million, a lot of times billion-dollar companies that have accountants and penny pinchers on their staff that also get paid like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, to make wise financial decisions on how they market and sell their games. And whatever figure it is that Microsoft presented them with, they're doing the cost benefit analysis, and they are deciding that doing this is in the best interest for the game financially. They have no interest in anything other than that, because their only purpose is to make as much money as possible on this game. The developers, they are worried about the game's performance, like how much people like it, review scores, blah, blah, blah. And to an extent, the publishers are too, because high review scores translate to sales, but that's where it ends. Their only goal is to make as much money as possible. So whatever figure they're getting from Microsoft is enough to where they think that they'll make more money that way. There's not a single publisher that's going to put a game on Game Pass thinking that it's going to do worse by doing that. Like you said, Microsoft is not strong arming them. The publishers are probably strong arming Microsoft. People like Square Enix are probably like, hey, I mean, we might not even release this game, this Final Fantasy remake on Xbox, because we don't think that Xbox gamers like JRPGs. So if you don't pay us a bunch of money to put these on Game Pass, or maybe Sega did that with Yakuza, whatever, like I don't know. But I have a feeling that the strong arming is a lot more directed towards Xbox by up this Game Pass amount, or we might not even launch the game because we don't think that it's going to sell a lot. Like that, I guarantee you that conversation has happened. Yeah, I guarantee you that conversation has happened.
I'm seeing so many different posts of announcements of Japanese games, and I'm like, this game looks interesting, and I go and I look, and it's not on Xbox for no reason. I'm just like, I mean, I have a PlayStation 4, I could get this game, but I mean, like, it feels like a slight against me at this point. Like, it's like specifically the American game system is the one that they don't release it on. I'm like, all right, I guess they just don't want my dollars then. I guess if I had any other money, that'd be fine.
For sure. But they do have the data and figures that back that up. Like, for one, they're not developing the games on Xbox in Japan because people in Japan don't have Xboxes. Like, that's how it's been. It's definitely changing. But also they had, like, people don't acknowledge this, and we're kind of going off on a tangent here. This doesn't get acknowledged at all ever. People look at Xbox as the shooter box, especially 360. The Xbox 360 had a ton of JRPGs. It had a ton of exclusive JRPGs that didn't do well sales wise. You had companies like Square Enix, I think, has 2 or 3 exclusive JRPGs on 360 that most people have not even heard of. And they sold horribly because they were mismarketed. And to be honest, I don't think that the audience on 360 was really ready to play JRPGs, which I think is the opposite now. I think that there's a huge audience of people that would jump into those games now, especially if they were on Game Pass. But they have this previous data of having little or no success with the American market, which is predominantly Xbox. Like, if you look at, like, PS4, obviously completely dominates Xbox in terms of its market share, like the units sold, but it's actually really close. Like, it's very neck and neck in terms of how many Xboxes and PS4s are sold in North America. Like, they're not beating Xbox by much, if at all, in North America. So that audience is predominantly Xbox in terms of, like, their global reach. So they have this past data of these games flopping on with American buyers on Xbox. So they're weary of doing that again. And to convince them to do that, Xbox needs to build a presence in Japan, in both in terms of customers and developers. That's why it's so huge that they have Shinji Mikami and Tango Gameworks as part of that Bethesda deal. They have to get Xboxes in Japanese players' houses, which they're never going to really be successful with that. But the kind of linchpin is that they can kind of stealth get Xboxes in people's homes by giving them PCs or getting Game Pass for PC. So these first party Xbox games are going to be on Game Pass PC, which a lot of people in Japan have. And then that's kind of the gateway into it. And before they do that, they're not really going to ever convince, like, big AAA, huge investment Japanese IPs from having, like, a preference of being on Xbox or just being on Xbox in general without some kind of financial incentive. Like Final Fantasy 13, that was shown off at an Xbox E3 stage originally, and that was a huge deal. And the only reason why that happened is because Microsoft, like, backed up a Brinks truck. There's no like Square Enix would never have chose to do that on their own, or never have chose to do that for a small amount of money, because they know they're going to sell way more of that game on PlayStation, which they did.
I'm trying to remember going way back to when you were talking about the exclusive 360 games. I'm just thinking about those now because I'm constantly talking about Lost Odyssey, which was one of them. It was Lost Odyssey and Blue Dragon were both developed by what was it?
Mistwalker,
yeah, who's doing, like, phone games now. Yeah,
that's again another, like, past data of showing it not working. But Square Enix made Last Revenant, which is on which is now on PS4, but originally it was 360 exclusive. They made
Infinite
Undiscovery. Yep.
Eternal Sonata, was that also?
There's
There's
two that I'm always confused. There's Eternal Sonata and another kind of lighthearted one.
Eternal Sonata is the lighthearted one.
Yeah, I think that one is Ubisoft, and I don't think that was exclusive.
Infinite Undiscovery, Last Remnant, Eternal Sonata. Okay, those are the only 3 I have.
Or maybe
here,
it was.
so.
There's Enchanted Arms, I think, is the one I was thinking of.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah,
that one wasn't very good.
One of Eternal Sonata or Enchanted Arms is exclusive, I'm pretty sure. Plus Infinite Undiscovery, plus Blue Dragon, Lost Odyssey, and Infinite Undiscovery or Last Remnant. I can't remember which ones I've said, but there's a bunch. There's like almost
I can't either.
yeah, there's like 6 or 7 exclusive JRPGs on Xbox 360, the shooter box. There's more JRPGs than there is Halo games and Gears of War games. Maybe not Forza games, but still, I can't think of that many exclusive, like AAA, heavily marketed Sony JRPGs on PS3. There's probably a bunch that I don't know of, but still, like they made a huge push for it and it didn't work, and they're still feeling the pains for that. But we just went on a massive tangent that has nothing to do with Insert Coin.
It was interesting to me, at least. I was having fun. I thought we were just sitting here talking at that point.
I have all this pent up like Xbox like knowledge. If there's like a way I can shoot some out, I have to get rid of it.
That's how it goes. You heard all the tangents I'm going on. It's just I don't know where I'm going. I'm like in a constant state of I'm in a constant dreamlike state. It feels like I don't know where. Have you ever seen The Office? Actually, this is a small tangent. If you haven't seen The Office, then it's not even going to be funny. But
like a couple episodes. I know the characters for the most part.
Well, it was just anyone listening that's seen The Office. There's a scene where Michael is saying, sometimes I start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going. Like I just try and figure it out when I'm talking.
Awesome.
But it's like right after he's talking and then immediately stops because he doesn't have anything else to say. It's really stupid. But yeah, cool. Besides the Xbox and the PS4, I did end up getting a Series X, and you said you had one from the All Access thing?
Yeah, I got one day one with All Access and Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Man, I'm so excited. I'm not excited to finish Yakuza 6, but I'm excited to play Like a Dragon. It's going to be bittersweet. I don't know why, but for some reason I want to ask you how much Mortal Kombat you've played. That's in my head all of a sudden.
A lot. I played a lot more of the older Mortal Kombats. I own most of them. I own all of them that came out on Xbox. I used to actually have like local Mortal Kombat tournaments. Every time I slept over at my cousin's house, we play a lot of Mortal Kombat 4 and Mortal Kombat Trilogy because they had huge rosters, and we would write every fighter's name on a piece of paper and put them in a hat and draft our team. And then we would fight against each other. And if you lost the fight, then that character died. And whoever was the last man standing won. We did that a lot. And I won a pretty decent amount of them.
That sounds like a lot of fucking fun. Those 2D Mortal Kombats actually made me very angry, though. So I played a lot of Mortal Kombat, but it wasn't until it became a 3D fighter that I actually really deep dived into Mortal Kombat, which sounds like blasphemy. I'm gonna say a lot of I said a lot of blasphemy this whole.
Yeah, you never even said you played or liked Metal Gear Solid.
I do have a Metal Gear Solid story, but it wasn't me playing it. There's Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. I was at a friend's house, and his big brother was playing that game, right? He's like way older than us. He's like a full-fledged adult, and we're in like 6th or 5th grade. He is crawling through like a little tunnel thing. And when you're crawling in that game, you go into first person. He's crawling forward, and there's a snake like way further ahead. And I see it, but I'm like, whatever. It's probably just, he'll just crawl through it because it's a video game. When he gets close to this snake, it rears its head back and then hisses and then jumps at him real fast. And he literally threw the controller and jumped up and just ran out of the room. And I was like, and this dude is like an adult. like we're kids watching this adult do this. He got so freaking scared. I had no idea he was that scared of snakes. But that's what I think of when I think of Metal Gear Solid. Actually, I think of Metal Gear Solid 5 first, which is a fun game.
Awesome. Was there anything else?
But I heard it's nothing like Metal Gear.
I know it's open world. I played 1 and 2. I haven't played any of the rest. I'm a failure. I'm going to do it someday, but I don't know. It really bums me out because I want to play them on Xbox. I have them all on Xbox, but like 4's not on Xbox, so like I can't do everything on so I don't know. That's kind of throwing a wrench into my plans a little bit. But did you have anything else that you want to talk about with quarter number 4?
Played a lot of League of Legends. We can wrap this up though if you want to.
No. I'm just curious. I also played. I don't know. I don't know if I'd say a lot. Probably 300 games.
300. That sounds like a lot to someone who doesn't play League, but yeah, I know what you mean. Actually, so me and Philip. So I never actually finished high school. I actually got kicked out. But and then pretty soon after I moved to Oklahoma City, which is where I live now. And so I kind of lost contact with Philip for a long time, my co-host, to refresh everyone's memory, because I know I've fucking gone on a million tangents. It's hard to follow my threads, but Philip goes to the military and a whole bunch of stuff. We both have our own lives. Eventually, we end up meeting up again, not meeting in person. He messaged me on Xbox, and he's like, get a computer. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll get a computer. And I get this shitty little laptop, and I download League of Legends. And him and 3 other people who are friends from Halo 3, we all play League of Legends together. They've been playing for like months, and I have no idea how to play a computer game. So besides RuneScape, which is fine because RuneScape is kind of similar to League if you think about it, but like not in structure, but like how you play the game, like you're clicking like around on the map to move your character,
like most,
which is
games.
That's the most important thing I needed to learn. What was the thing? Oh yeah, so they didn't want to play in the jungle, so that's where they stuck me. They stuck me in the jungle. I had no idea how to play, and they just said learn, and they never taught me how to play in the jungle because no one knew. And like I was playing like Teemo in the jungle and shit. I didn't know what I was doing. Just feeding constantly. Who were you playing? Like what lanes were you?
I play a lot of top. So I play a lot of like Garen, Jarvan, Darius, Jax,
all those
Aurelia, Riven, a lot of those top laners. I started playing again recently, actually, a little bit because I was getting into Legends of Runeterra, which kind of is like a gateway drug to League of Legends. I quit League of Legends when Dota 2 came out because Dota 2 is superior in like, but it's just not a good game to play if you don't have a lot of time to play video games. Because like every match is like an hour. But recently, like when I came back, I wanted to. I'm playing a lot solo, so I don't have comms with the jungler. I don't have comms with, so that takes out top and mid, and I don't have comms with a bot. So like that takes out support and ADC. So I've been playing jungle. So I've been playing a lot of jungle, like Trundle, jungle, a lot of Trundle to be honest, but also some Jarvan in the jungle.
Jarvan's very fun.
Warwick. That's kind of mostly those 3. I've been playing Wild Rift too. Wild Rift's pretty dope. I can't wait for that to come to Xbox.
Yeah, Wild Rift. I've been just stomping people. Like I don't know what's going. Well, we're basically smurfing because we know how to play the game.
Yeah,
like it's like randos.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about it. But because I will just play a support and just carry, and my team's not even doing good. Like I'm just carrying as like Soraka or something. I can't remember. It's Sona. I mean,
yeah,
Sona.
That's how it's
Sona's
been.
Scary in there.
It's because your MMR gets reset to 0 when you start Wild Rift because it's a new game technically. And yeah, most people that play, I'm not like great to be honest. Like I'm probably like if I went and played ranked in a season, I'd probably be like gold, maybe like
Gold's
high
good.
silver.
Gold's pretty good. I never made it to gold.
Oh well, yeah, maybe high silver. Then I don't know. Like when I used to play StarCraft 2 and I got to Diamond 2s, which was like my best, and like I kind of equate that to the League a little bit, because it's like similar skill set. But anyway, yeah, no, I'm stoked for Wild Rift to come to console because I think that it'd be there hasn't been like a real solid try at a console MOBA. The only time that they've done that, like put a budget behind it, was Paragon, and Paragon was awesome. Paragon is a great game, but Fortnite made too much money for them to spend any time on Paragon, so they killed it.
Did you play Smite? Smite's still going on.
Smite is the best that there is right now, but I just don't like it that much. Like, it just feels very janky to me. If you really want to play a MOBA and you don't have a PC, Smite's great, and it has a Series X update, so it's like 60 FPS and like a better FOV. But it's just, I don't know. Like, a lot of the mechanics really rely on having a mouse, like WASD, being able to like click the mini maps and stuff like that. So like and Wild Rift's sort of like that too, but I don't know. I just don't think Smite translates as well, but it is still good. And they have the best model for Dota has the best model, but they have a much better model than League, where you can pay $30 or like 30 Canadian, so it's probably 20 American, or it goes on sale a lot for like a Smite champion bundle or whatever, or bundle of the gods or something like that, and you just get all characters forever. So when new ones come out, you have it.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
Did you ever play Battleborn? That was a MOBA.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I played the beta; it was really good, and then Overwatch came out and just completely killed it.
Yeah,
It was a
Overwatch
massacre.
and Battleborn, both of those games I got when they released, and I definitely like Battleborn infinitely more because it was more. I was playing a lot of League at the time, so I was like, "Oh, this is just like a shooter league. I can do this easy," and I was really good at it because everyone sucked because it was a console game, so that no one was playing League, I guess. So
Yeah,
but
I definitely
remember
like Battleborn more than my friends because I was playing with my console friends and they didn't really have experience with MOBA. But Overwatch was just too polished, too perfect. Like it launched as like such a complete, polished, perfect experience. I'm not sure if any game has launched in that state since.
I can't exactly remember because I definitely played Overwatch for a while, and did it come out before or after Rainbow Six Siege?
I think they came out in the same year, but it came out before because it was like May 2016, I think. And I think that Rainbow was like in the fall, but when Rainbow Six Siege came out, it was garbage. Like that game got built up a lot. They pumped a lot of money post launch into Rainbow Six.
I definitely was a huge fan of Rainbow Six Siege, but I was there when it died also. I was in like, I can't remember what the ranks were. Is it just gold and silver and stuff, just like all the other games? I don't know. I was getting pretty high in the ranks, but it was getting to the point where I was waiting in queue for like 20 minutes. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, if I got on another account on my Xbox, like just a normal account, built it up to 30 and played ranked on a fresh account, it was just totally fine. And I'm like, I just want my original account to be awesome. So I was actually
a lot
very
better now.
surprised.
I don't know if you played it recently.
Oh yeah, it's still a game I play constantly. But yeah, I was very surprised. I have a friend who plays Counter-Strike, and he messaged me on Discord and was like, "Hey, get on the PC and download Rainbow Six Siege." And I'm like, "Why would anyone want to play that dead game?" And this was like after its revival, like when it fucking became a huge like esport and stuff. And so all of a sudden, there's a billion people playing this game. And so I download it on the Xbox and I buy it on the PC, and those are different fucking games. Like it is so jarring actually on the PC how different the game is.
Yeah, I tried it with Uplay Plus or whatever. I need a controller. Like, call me whatever you want, but I'm much better on that. So I'm like, if I play Overwatch on PC, I also get spanked. I don't know.
I played a lot of Counter-Strike, so I got really good at it. But the thing about Rainbow Six Siege is that you have to like listen for footsteps and stuff, like turn everything. You do it on Counter-Strike as well, obviously, but it's so important on Siege because they're so loud and pronounced. But also like you'll have your headset turned way up, and then a shotgun will go off like right next to you. And every single time, if I'm like real focused, I'll jump. My mouse will all over the screen. My gun just goes crazy, and now I'm staring at the ceiling, and then I get shot in the side of the head because I'm moving and giving away my position. It's like awful. Because so on Siege, I am definitely better, with like the people on the console. I'm better than I am on the computer with the people that are on the computer. I definitely do way worse.
For sure.
Even though I feel if I could play myself on both if on PC and on Xbox, if I could 1v1 myself, I would smash my console version. I would destroy me. It's just it's so different. The game is so different.
Awesome. Anything else before we wrap quarter number 4?
We can wrap it up.
Awesome. Well, we made it. We made it through all 4 quarters of your gaming life so far. And I have a couple of wrap-up questions to ask you while all this knowledge is fresh in your awesome memory. If possible, after just discussing your entire history with video games, can you pick a favorite game series? And I'm also going to modify this question slightly, because one thing that I noticed that's very interesting about all of the games that you have mentioned is there's no rhyme or reason into what genres of video games you are interested in any quarter. A lot of times it's easy to tell like what a guest's like favorite genre is. It does often change from quarter to quarter, but for you, like you have quarter 1, Turok shooting game, Tony Hawk skateboarding game, Crash Bandicoot platforming game, quarter 2, Luigi's Mansion, Resident Evil, Guitar Hero, RPGs like Final Fantasy, ATV, Off-Road Fury. There's no connection to any of those games. Halo 3, Gears of War, Lost Planet, Rock Band in the next quarter with other RPGs. So my modification is favorite game series and favorite game genre.
Yeah, I have a very strange mind, I guess. I'm constantly juggling different tracks of everything, I guess. But game series would probably, I'd have to stick with Rock Band as I have to go with Chris from 1H1D and go with, well, no, he didn't say Rock Band, did he? Oh, you know what? Weren't you doing this for each quarter for him?
I didn't say, I ask everybody their favorite game in the quarter. They choose whether or not to answer it. But yeah, I did ask him favorite game series.
What did he say then? Oh, he said Metal Gear Solid, didn't he? No, he said Splinter Cell. I don't even know why I'm bringing that up. Rock Band is my answer to that.
This is about you, man. This is your answer. Favorite genre.
I don't want to say rhythm game.
Say what your favorite genre is. There's no like meta game to this. This is just your favorite genre of video games.
I think actually. Okay, I'm switching my answers up. I'm gonna say my favorite genre is rhythm game, but my favorite series, I might have to say Halo.
That's the best answer you could have gave for favorite series.
Yeah, those are. Yeah, I the final answer. Halo 3 specifically. So much. I still play Halo 3 constantly.
Yeah, me too, on MCC.
That wraps it up too in a good little bow, because that's when I really got into gaming too. Both of those games.
Did you see the new season in MCC?
Oh yeah, it's so interesting to see those new armors. Like I understand not wanting to mess with like I was gonna say the formula, but it doesn't do anything but cosmetics. But it's so freaking cool to like see the old security helmet next to this crazy freaking Spartan helmet, like an actual Spartan helmet.
Yeah,
it's like cool.
I love it. Next question. Did you enjoy video games more in the first quarter of your life or now in present day?
Definitely present day. Unsurprisingly, it feels like, because my memories when I think back on games are kind of sad. Yeah. I was kind of a downer at the beginning, but yeah, but now gaming is like basically become my life and everything I love besides music. So it's like I'm very passionate. I'm a very passionate guy. Got a lot of divisive opinions about video games. I don't know where I'm going with this. I was trying to make a joke and I couldn't figure out what the punchline was.
No problem. Finally, what are some things that you look forward to as you continue playing games? Things that you think could make this list the next time you take a walk down memory lane?
Oh, there's so much. I think Mortal Kombat was itching at me. I don't think there's so many things I didn't talk about. Like, the Game Boy Advance, I never even brought it up. Like the Minish Cap and Mega Man Battle Network. There's Need for Speed Underground 2 on the GameCube, not on the Game Boy. I don't know why I said that. Sonic Adventure Battle 2 on the Dreamcast. I brought up the Dreamcast, never even talked about the games, Tony Hawk, all that stuff.
Well, this was
So
a
many
pretty
Nintendo
brisk
games.
conversation. Like we kind of cruised right through it. So we've only been talking for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, not enough time in the world for yeah, okay. I'm sorry. I keep forgetting about how long we've been sitting here.
No problem. Well, that's all I got. Thank you so much, Nave, for joining me. I hope you had a great time discussing your history with video games. Before we say our goodbyes, though, I'd like to give you the floor to let everyone know where they can find you, see all your work, and all of that jazz. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. We are Gaming Together, a cooperative podcast on all of your podcast networks. We are on YouTube, where we occasionally remember to upload our latest episodes. And if you want to find us on Twitter, you want to find me on Twitter, it's at Game Together Pod, GAME Together Pod, because Gaming Together was taken, and Gaming Together Pod is too long. And I run the Twitter account basically exclusively. Philip is on Facebook. I don't know what it's like over there because I'm scared of that place. And I think that's it. Good Pods also. I am at Guns vs. Kittens, which is my Xbox gamer tag also. I guess if you want to add me there, I don't know why you would want to do that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that because your gamer score leaderboard will be ruined. You'll never win again. I've contemplated deleting you because of that.
I've got Maka on my gamer score leaderboard, and I'm just like, every time I see him, I'm just like, this makes me sad. How does he have so much time? Like, he makes all
literally
those
his
crazy
job.
walkthroughs. I know, but it's like those walkthroughs take so much time. Like, I understand how much pain he has to go through. He probably hires people to edit stuff for him now at this point.
I mean, maybe, but like it's his job. Like all the time that you spend at your job, imagine you are just playing video games instead. And then when you get home from your job that was playing video games, you probably just play video games because that's fun.
That sounds like what I would. That sounds optimal.
Yeah,
actually.
Anyways, I also wanted to take a quick second to thank everyone who managed to make their way to the end. That really means a lot to me. If you enjoyed the show or have any comments or critiques, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or in the comment section below if you are listening to this on YouTube. And hey, while you're there, feel free to like and subscribe. We're on a mission to get to 200 subscribers. Until next time, remember to have fun out there, everybody, and I will talk to you soon.